Hey, we're going to be debating abortion here soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crucible. I am your host, Zen Shapiro. Thank you all for being here tonight. Very excited. We've got an abortion debate. We've got Neenia returning. She's well known here at the Crucible, a fan favorite, if you will. Lover or hater, she always brings good energy, and it's a good time. She's going to be teaming up with Crowdsource Politics, who's a newcomer here at the Crucible. They're going to be defending the pro-choice / pro-abortion position against two newcomers on the pro-life side, Conservative and Glaucoma. Should be fun. As you guys, most of you may know, abortion is my wheelhouse, so I always enjoy a good abortion debate. Seems to be regaining popularity in the mainstream. I know that they just had the Whatever podcast, had a big debate with Destiny and Lila Rose. So I hope you guys are excited. I know I am. Before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys, please do all the YouTube shit. Like, share, subscribe, help us out in the algorithm. We're just coming off of those channel strikes. So we're back on the main channel now, thankfully. But we're still kind of recovering with all the strikes and the backup channels, and the algorithm doesn't like that kind of stuff. So do your part and give us the engagement that helps us kind of regain the traction that we had before all that. And if you want to support us, you can do so via super chats, either on YouTube or the Dono Chat link, which is pinned at the top of the live chat. Send your super chat questions. They all will be read at the end of the debate. And we will be taking callers tonight, as always. So if you want to call in, ask a question directly to either debater, you can do so by going to the Discord and getting a stream link from the mods, and you can call in, ask the question directly. And the best way to support us is to become a channel member. With the channel memberships, you get all the special perks. You get the special members only content. You get to throw tomato soup cans, the members only emojis. All of it's lots of fun. Highly recommend. So become a channel member. Help us out here at the Crucible. We appreciate all of your support. That being said, we will be right back with our debaters. And we're back. Thank you all for being here tonight. We've got Cypher, also known as Crowdsource Politics, on the left, along with Neenia. And then on the right, we've got Conservative and Glaucoma. Crowdsource Politics, take a second, shout yourself out, tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. Thank you, Zen, for reaching out and offering to have me on. My name is Cypher. I stream under the moniker of Crowdsourced Politics. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube. We cover a bunch of different stuff, a little more heavy-handed than might otherwise be on Twitch, but we try to keep it professional and keep it informative. So glad to be here again, and we'll see how it goes.
And Neenia, like I said, fan favorite here at the Crucible. Doesn't really need much of an introduction, but go ahead, shout yourself out, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm Neenia from twitch.tv/Neenia. I am, I feel like the token leftist on the channel generally. I'm very excited to have this debate. I love doing the 2v2s with Cypher. We've done them before, so I think it'll be a lot of fun to do it again. And it's a pleasure to meet all of our new competitors here. And again, twitch.tv/Neenia, and let it back to you.
And Clack Conservative, go ahead, shout yourself out, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Clack Conservative, or Black Conservative. I go by Clack Conservative on TikTok, and I'm interested in normative ethics and mathematics.
All right, and Glaucoma, shout yourself out, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm mainly on TikTok. It's Glaucoma with 3 A's at the end. I run a really hectic Discord debate server, so we talk about a lot of philosophical topics in there. Not so much political, but sometimes we'll dive into that. And I just like talking about things like abortion and veganism and gender. Hopefully I can talk about gender on here sometime. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, they are going to be debating abortion. And before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys one more time, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube shit, send those super chats, become a channel member. All of it helps us out. We appreciate everybody's support. We did discuss backstage that the right side of the screen would go first. Normally we do 7-minute openers, but because we've got, it's a 2v2, I want to save a little bit of time. So we're only going to get 5 minutes per person on opening statements. You don't have to use all of it. Use it as you wish, but Glock or Clack, whichever of you wants to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. And then Julian, if you want to add anything, you can, but I think I was going to cover the opening and keep it pretty short and sweet. But I mean, today we're here talking about the ethics of abortion. And so my partner Julian and I are going to be defending the view that in most cases, abortion is seriously wrong. Now, I believe I share the intuition along with most people that death and murder are one of the worst things that can happen to somebody. But society seems to turn their head when the life being taken away is a fetus, in which I'd like to know what's the morally relevant difference between a fetus and an infant, for example. Sorry, I got the notification. So what's a morally relevant difference between a fetus and an infant, for example, such that it's okay to kill one and not the other? Julian and I argue that there's none, because just like us and just like the infant, the fetus has a valuable future, and depriving the fetus of a future like ours is prima facie morally wrong. Now, I believe this is supported by other ethical intuitions that we all share on the panel, such as why killing is one of the worst crimes, why terminal illnesses are so bad, why it's seriously wrong to kill children. I mean, in fact, we even grieve even more so when the killing imposes a misfortune of premature death. So altogether, just to keep this pretty short and sweet, the view that Julie and I will be defending today is a conjunction of future like ours and responsibility principles that best encapture our ethical intuitions about parenthood and moral value. Julian, do you want to add anything?
No, that was perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, you guys want to concede the rest of your time then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then left side, Cypher and Neenia, you guys have 5 minutes per person. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
You want me to go first? I'm sorry, we didn't cover that right before. Okay.
Yeah, we did, but
Yeah, I'm just making sure. Sorry. All right. So thank you again, everybody, for having me on. So let's get into this. Tonight, we are going to debate the morality of abortion. I am clearly on the pro-choice side. As you listened to our opponents, they are clearly on the anti-abortion or anti-choice side. However you want to frame it, I think both are fine. Now, this is an important distinction to make, because when I say pro-choice, I don't know many people that are actually just gun-ho anti-natalist. I don't think anybody on this panel is. I don't know anybody that's actually anti-natalist. It's a very uncommon viewpoint, and so that's one we're just going to push aside and just completely ignore. However, my opponents have already stated they are going to focus on the morality of a framing called a future like ours. And this morality framing presupposes that everybody, as just simply due to existence, deserves to have a future. It presupposes that future A future is one that we can all visualize and say, okay, we don't want to impound upon someone else's future, so therefore abortion is wrong, similar to, I guess, murder, but I don't know if they'll have anything else that they would consider to be that. If we are going to have, if we're going to do this kind of thing, we have to also acknowledge that there are other instances of where, as far as a legal standpoint is concerned, abortion is completely a moral necessity. We will get into where those things are, but I'm sure that everybody can understand, you know, if the life of the mother is at risk of something, then you can't really necessarily weight the health of the pre-proposed child versus a living, breathing human being with the ability to make choices, have intuition, have morality, have emotions, etc. So I think that's what we're going to be getting in tonight, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you for that opener. And Nina, I'm going to reset the clock here real quick. You got 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I know these 2v2s can get a little bit bogged down if we're all doing like long ones, so I'm also going to keep it a little short and sweet. And because I do want to just get into it, right? So I just want to respond mostly. Of course, I agree with what my partner said about his positions. We've talked about this at length, obviously, but I wanted to just respond a little bit to. Obviously, we're going to get right into it, but very confusing statement where I believe Glaucoma said we disagree that terminal illnesses are so bad. That was a little confusing. So if we want to lead right into it, I just want to see what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, can we get into it, or is that?
Yeah. Are you done with your opener then, Nina?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get into it, I want to remind everybody one more time: shameless shilling and plugging here at the Crucible. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube shit. We are going to be taking callers as always. So if you want to call in, ask a question directly, get into the Discord, which you'll see the mods posting the link to in the live chat. Get a stream link from the mods in the Discord, and you can call in, ask a question directly to either debater. Be sure to get in there early because sometimes the queue fills up. We can't get to everybody. And as always, we're going to be taking super chats. So send those in either on YouTube or on Dono Chat, which is pinned in the top of the live chat. Send your questions in. Those will all get read. And we can get right into it. We're going to have roughly an hour to an hour and a half of open dialogue. The floor is open.
Okay. What was needed clarification on? What statement?
You said that we disagree on everything, and one of the things that you listed was terminal illnesses are bad.
No. So the statement was that
the
statement was that we typically share some ethical intuition. So if I ask the panel, do you think that killing is wrong, all else equal, I assume that the panel is going to say, yeah, that's probably wrong. Do you think that terminal illnesses are bad, like that they're a sad situation? We're probably all going to agree yes. So I was saying that we're probably in agreement upon certain ethical intuitions that we have. That was just an example.
Well, would you? I don't know if necessarily. Go ahead, Nina. Sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't really seem like an ethical statement.
What do you take ethical statement to be?
Well, I mean, it's not. It just kind of seems like a objective statement that terminal illnesses. I mean, do you think that anyone it's not really like a thing that I would imagine?
Sorry, maybe there's confusion on what objective means there, but we don't have to get into that. But so by like a shared ethical intuition, yeah, just a shared ethical intuition. When I'm using moral language like good or bad, like I said, that's bad, killing's wrong. That's just an ethical statement that I'm making. I'm just making a claim.
Wait, so you think killing in all situations is wrong?
All else equal was what I said.
Yeah, when did we say that killing in all situations is wrong? Maybe if
I'm just trying to clarify the position.
Yeah, all else equal. So all else equal. Of course, if there's external considerations like, oh, you found out someone died, you might have a reaction that that's sad, and then you found out that they actually broke into someone's house and were trying to commit a heinous crime. Then of course you're going to change your mind and say those external considerations. Okay. Sorry.
So my question.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but.
Yeah, if you're still going, please continue. I'm trying to be.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
So you don't think that killing in of itself isn't it's morally neutral, you would say?
I just have the intuition I reported was just that killing is wrong, and there's typically external considerations. So that's all else equal.
If there is external considerations to be had, then killing in of itself is a morally neutral act.
Well, so
it's whether or not the impotence of it.
We're saying that if you kill someone, it's gonna ask a prima facie justification against doing that action. So yeah, there's some cases in which killing someone could be justified, but killing is usually a bad thing, and therefore.
But if you're saying usually,
no, but the act of killing is
Okay,
neutral. Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. He's saying that it could go either way based on the situation.
So the statement, I can kind of slow it down. So just when I say all else equal, that means in this situation where there are no external considerations, you would probably have the intuition that it's wrong. Nobody agrees that in self-defense, then it's totally okay because you were defending yourself.
Right, because then killing in of itself is a neutral act. Where you're getting at is whether or not something should be considered murder. Murder is when we talk about
all else equal. Just the statement is all else equal, killing is wrong. I'm not sure what the confusion on that's just a
we're trying to clarify language here. So the reason why it's important to clarify this language is because if we're going to talk about abortion, then if there are externalities that we agree that are something to the effect of justifying it, then we have to say what is a justified abortion versus what is not a justified abortion.
Yeah, and by your team has the burden because we just established that it's all else.
Yeah, but you already said that generally speaking, right? And you said it in the opening statement.
So
you said
like
the most abortion
considerations. If you'd like to provide the external considerations that
I need to know what you have.
We're just trying to set the framework here.
Yeah, I need to know what your guys' external.
We're just positing this as just prima facie justification. So if you have some, external reasons why killing could be okay, list them. I noticed in your opening statement you said that it could be okay if the mother's life is at risk. And do you know the maternal mortality rate?
I see where this is going. The mother mortality rate varies based on a number of different factors, race included. I believe it is around, generally speaking, 30%. It's pretty high.
30%? You think?
Yeah.
You think in 30% of pregnancies,
I think it was
dying?
Around 17. But again, it absolutely depends.
17%. You think in 17% of pregnancies the mother is dying? Have you done any research at all?
Would you like
I don't care about this question, but that's fine. Go ahead.
It's
from the CDC, so.
And if you wanna posit the mother's life at risk, can you name me other significant risk of pregnancy? And we can go over them too.
Okay, no, we're getting away from where we wanted to. We need to establish these things. We don't have a lot.
No, because
I want to say we need to register. Do you think killing is a neutral
the mother's life is
act?
At risk? Or the mother has these complications, and you don't even know what complications you're talking about. You don't know placenta abruption.
Okay, I know you want to do your dialogue tree, but we really want to establish this is important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
So when I made the statement, you can go back to the statement. So all else equal, killing is wrong. Agree or disagree, left side of the panel.
All is equal. So then that would imply that just in every situation, killing is wrong, right?
All else equal is just not considering external circumstances. So like self-defense is not going to be. So I don't know what that was.
Okay, so then nothing that doesn't even really make sense as a statement. We're talking about how killing is a neutral act. It seems like you might be agreeing with that then, because if we're saying killing is not either one or the other, but you just think that killing is wrong, but then you also would agree that in self-defense that it is not wrong. So it really seems to me that we're talking about killing as a neutral action because it could go either way.
Have you heard the term all else equal before?
I don't understand what
we actually agree all else equal if there's it's no other externality. I want to get off this point because it's pointless. I just wanted to get to the fact that what we're actually arguing about, and this is the way I'm going to be framing it, is we're actually arguing about what is the definition of murder.
Right.
Well, sorry, I don't know how we jumped to there because we're just talking about. Okay, so are we moving off from the point? So we agree that all else equal, killing is wrong. So it seems that you guys agree with the right side of the panel.
Sure.
Okay. And so
sure.
When it comes to killing a fetus, you guys hold the view that it's now not wrong, or what's the view? Neutral, not wrong, permissible.
The killing a fetus isn't killing of a person.
Okay, so person. What's meant by person there?
Person. Do you know what personhood is?
I mean, I have an idea of personhood. I'm just asking what your idea of personhood is.
So if you know what it is, then why are you asking me?
Or do you think we have the same? Well, if we grant moral consideration at conception and you grant it at another time, do you think that we have the same idea of personhood?
Obviously not. So that's why I'm saying a fetus does not have granted of personhood. A fetus does not have a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into this debate?
Well, sorry. The question I was asked was, what's your idea of person or personhood?
I'm sorry. Say again. Sorry, I got distracted.
Maybe viability. Is that what you're kind of asking? What is the question exactly?
Yeah, sorry, Julian, you can cut me off at any time
So
too.
yeah, if it's just personal viability, I have some questions for you. Especially when it comes to the 20 to 39 week period when the fetus is conscious. So most people are going to value the fetus at this time. Do you think it's okay to remove the fetus at 20 to 40 weeks?
We're talking about viability here. Can it
Yes,
survive
it's
outside of
okay
the
to have a
womb?
C-section at 20 to 40 weeks. Remove the fetus.
You said a C-section. That implies that implies birth. So
Yeah.
It
Is a
implies birth.
C-section not giving birth?
Do you think
Do you
it's
not give
wrong
birth to
do you
somebody
think it's
who
wrong
has
for
a
the fetus due
C-section?
to alcohol syndrome?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Do you think it's wrong to give the fetus fetal alcohol syndrome?
I mean, sure.
Yeah, then you should oppose abortions at this
I
20 to
don't.
39 week period because
What
the
is
fetus. Let me pull up the statistics.
Go ahead.
Right, the fetus is going to have increased chance of hearing, sight, intellectual disabilities.
Uh-huh.
4 out of 10 at the 25 week period, and it's also risk to the mother with blood clots, hemorrhaging, infection, and inflammation to the uterus. So you're not only putting the fetus's life at risk with disabilities, you're putting the mother's life at risk too.
All the more reason why
That
abortion
was-
should be legal.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just just to slow it down. So, sorry, and I just want to understand the view. So, once the fetus is viable, so once the mother can, like, I don't know at what time frame you hold that, but once the fetus can survive outside of the womb, you think it deserves some kind of moral consideration or a parental obligation would enact at that point.
I personally agreed with the Roe standard. That seemed to be the best way to
But
divide
also-
the baby in half.
Yeah, I think that was
You're
fair.
not tracking though, right? They're not tracking at all what I said before. If you allow C-sections at this period, 20 to 39 weeks, it's going to come at increased risk for the fetus and increased risk for the woman. So you're permitting dangerous situations for not only women, but fetuses allowing C-sections at this point. That is why hospitals will not give you a C-section unless it's an absolute medical necessity
Okay.
before 39
Okay.
weeks.
I don't see
Right?
how
So
this
your-
is
Your
relevant.
position
Yeah.
entails harming the fetus with intellectual disabilities, sight problems, hearing problems, behavioral problems, dental problems, cerebral palsy. You are advocating for all these things to happen to the fetus when they grow up, all these harmful things, and yet you
No,
say
how
you're
are we
against
advocating for that? I don't understand how we're advocating for that. One, neither Nina nor myself said anything about C-section. You did, and
Well,
and
just,
then you brought that up
viability.
after. Hold on, you brought that up after. You brought that up after talking about fetal alcohol syndrome. So you're kind of going all over the place. I don't know exactly where you're going with
Yeah, because
this.
you're not tracking.
Here, let me
No, I
step
am
in.
tracking.
I just
real
need to
quick,
understand-
Real quick, guys, hang on. I kind of agree that it might be going off track a little bit. I think what's pertinent to establish first is Glock asked like what you guys define person as, and obviously you have to have some disagreement there if
Sure.
if they're declaring a person at
Mhm.
conception and you guys declare it at some other point. I do think that is probably the most pertinent route to go down before we get into the later stuff. But I think that we kind of diverted from that. So I think that's
I
what we
don't
should-
think so because they said personhood is going to be defined by viability. I gave them standards. If you allow the viability to happen at this 20 to 39 week period, you're going to be allowing for all these things because
I
you're saying
allow
the
it
fetus
to
can
happen.
be removed by C-section at 20 to 39 weeks if you hold the viability standard.
No.
So all those complications I listed apply to your.
I don't understand how that's holding the viability standard was established because the Supreme Court at the time actually took these kind of arguments that we're actually going to be making into consideration. They balanced the life of the mother against the life of the fetus. They balanced the personhood of the fetus versus the personhood of the mother. They balanced body autonomy and versus the act of whatever you want to call it, murder, killing, whatever. They balanced all these things out and came with the 24-week standard. And the reason they came up with the 24-week standard is for things that we might get into: the ability to have a conscience, feels, the actual brain development, so they have a personality, etc., etc., etc. It has nothing to do with
everything
that.
but answer the question there,
Julian.
right?
So,
But it doesn't. The question doesn't matter.
The question, it doesn't matter. You said your standard is viability, and you're saying the implications of having viability as a standard of personhood don't in fact matter.
No, the fact that you are insisting that by saying that we are talking about viability necessitates the fact that we should be pro C-section for the fetus and the mother is frankly non sequitur. It doesn't make any sense.
So if you hold the viability standard, you're saying the mother has to carry to term these babies at 20 weeks.
That's exactly how that standard was set up. Yes, it had to carry to term unless there was other complications which endangered the life of the mother.
And why would consciousness matter to your stance?
Consciousness matters because that's when personhood comes into
Hold on really
existence.
quick. I just want to get some clarification. So do you hold the view that once the fetus is viable around that same time, that the fetus has some consciousness or?
Yeah, because of brain development. It's roughly anywhere between 24 and 27 weeks or so is when there's actually enough brain matter and connections and everything else like that to actually have a viable fetus that doesn't have to go through an immense amount of suffering in order to stay alive, as well as actually having the neural synapses to actually have a personality.
Yeah, I have some. I mean, I definitely want to get into the consciousness, discussion about the empirics or whatever after, but. Just about your viability stance. So you're saying it's more like, I'm sorry, you're saying that the fetus deserves moral consideration and it's not permissible to kill it once it can survive outside the mother's womb.
No, you keep saying
I'm
killing.
just trying to understand if it was a question.
I know, but the reason why I had murder is because you keep saying killing. So if there is this, like you said, an external instance where, I don't know, there was a miscarriage that didn't get fully passed at 25 weeks or something, then the legal framework for that and the medical procedure would be an abortion. It would still be a D&C.
So what's the issue with me using, in an elective abortion, what's the issue with me using the word killing?
Well, then now you're talking about an elective abortion, because if the fetus suddenly at like 24 weeks or something, we find out that it doesn't have the ability to survive outside the womb, would killing it then be immoral in your opinion?
So that was the question I'm posing to you right now. So I'm essentially saying that I just want to clarify that the fetus is given moral consideration once it can survive outside the womb. Once it can survive, right, then there's no need to get an abortion. Or some parental obligation enacts.
So there can be a reason to get an abortion, but I've been rambling too long, so I'd like Nina to jump in.
Okay. So no, I'm just trying to figure out. So do you guys believe in the idea of like parental obligation? Do you think that once you have a child, I don't know, whenever, once it's born, once it's 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, that you have some type of moral duty to take care of your child?
I mean, adoption exists, so no.
Okay, well, so if you can transfer the obligation, then sure, but I'm talking about, okay, so you hold the view that once the fetus is outside the womb, it's given moral consideration, and you have a duty to take care of it unless you can transfer the obligation?
Is that a question? Unless you can, what exactly are you asking?
Okay.
You're saying that you should be required to take care of a baby unless you can have somebody else take care of it? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, do you believe, so I'll try to make it simpler. Do you believe that parents are obligated to take care of their children at some point? It doesn't need to be in utero, and it can be at birth, like whenever you believe that this obligation enacts, like, do you believe that it even exists? That's my question.
Again, you're saying that is not considering like so going away from like maybe giving your kid up for adoption or giving them to like a family member. You think outside of that, that's what you're asking?
Yeah.
As in like the other option would just be like what, like leaving them on the street to die or something?
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you think it's wrong for a parent to do that because they have some type of moral duty to take care of their children and they can't just leave their children on the side of the road?
I don't really feel like that's a fair statement at all, because that is completely foregoing the aspects that you're saying like isn't the options of like they don't have other alternatives.
Sorry,
right?
So do you know, I mean, I can stipulate like a very specific hypothetical if this helps. So in the hypothetical, you have a mother and she has a child, a 5-year-old child. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So does this mother have an obligation to feed her child, for example? Does she have to feed her child so her child survives?
She's a 5-year-old child, sure, yeah.
I don't know if this is like intentionally bad faith or if there's like really confusing aspects to the question. Does a mother, so just so the audience knows, the question is, if a mother has a 5-year-old child, should she feed it? We're stuck on the question. I don't know how
I said, yeah, like what the fuck?
Okay, so you believe that at some point parents have a moral duty to protect the well-being of their children. Great. And you think that the morally relevant factor that enacts this is going to be once it can survive outside of the womb, and that's relevant. Why?
Do you think an adoptive parent doesn't have that same responsibility?
Sorry, I don't see the relevance of the question. Yeah, parental obligation. It doesn't matter. Yeah, whoever is obligated to take care of the child.
Yeah, so it
I
doesn't
would
have to
say
be
this is a social thing, but I'm sorry, Nina, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like you're talking about are you trying to talk about like on a biological or just like a social sense? If you're talking about in a social sense, of course, like any kid or any parent who is responsible for their kid that have taken on the responsibility of like having their kid or whatever, like adoptive or biological, like yeah, of course they should have the social responsibility to take care of them.
Perfect. Okay, we agree. Great. Yeah. So, but you think that starts, right? That this moral consideration starts when you have to start taking care of your child, unless you can transfer the obligation once the fetus can survive outside of the womb. I'm asking why that's morally relevant. The fetus surviving outside of your womb.
Well, we're talking about like when we're talking about like a personhood or whatever, I would say I'd go with the viability argument. Like you are like in like a different library, my girl. Like what the fuck are we talking about when we're relating that? I'm not understanding the direct thing.
Yeah, no. So the question is, so I know
what
that
is my argument?
Your argument is that you look at personhood at viability, which actually contradicts with your partner's argument, who says that consciousness matters. So is it viability or consciousness? I'm just so confused.
They're kind of go hand in hand. That's why the viability standard. That is why the viability standard was made. Yes, it was.
Julian, so just really quick, no, I can't even establish. I'm literally just trying to establish that, because I'm asking. So you're saying that the fetus at one point, it's morally permissible to get an abortion, right? You have no obligation to this fetus at all during this stage, right? And then once you hit this stage, which for you is the fetus surviving outside of the womb, there's some obligation. You have to take care of it unless you can transfer that.
What?
Okay. So there's a time in utero where you say people can get an abortion. They don't have any obligation, responsibility to take care of this fetus. And then at another point, for you, that's
we're not talking about abortion here. You're just kind of having a different philosophical argument. Can we get back to actually talking about abortion? Why do you think that it's not okay to have an abortion?
Sorry, maybe your partner can track the conversation. I can ask him the same question. You want to answer this?
I just don't think it's. I think we're both on the same page, or I think this is like a really weird like process that we're going down. You're supposed to be. You went first because you're in the affirmative about like saying that you don't think abortion should be legal, right?
It's really easy. So when you say viability is my cutoff, and I go, why does that matter? And you're like, this is philosophical.
Okay, well, I'm talking about on a legal sense, of course. Generally, that's where we come to. Like, it's like if we're talking about the philosophy, which I guess is the title, whatever. But like when I say that, I'm definitely talking about the legal aspect of it. Okay, like the important one.
Wait, sorry, really quick, Nina. Can you tell me the question that I originally asked you?
Do you want me to repeat the exact same question? I'm not sure. You have a weird way you word things.
Just ballpark. What was the question that I asked you that I'm trying to get an answer to?
You're talking about something about like viability and obligation of violate. Like I don't understand the relevance of any of that. We're talking about abortion here. You guys are saying that abortion is bad. We're pro-choice. You're the ones who are being the authoritarian, picking like, oh, you can't have an abortion. So you need to be the ones to prove to us why.
Okay,
if that is a problem.
Sorry, I mean. For time's sake, like if we're just gonna not answer questions and you want Julian and I to answer your questions, that's fine.
Okay, well you're literally not answering my question, so I guess we could just continue to not answer.
Okay, hang on. Women, settle down, separate.
Oh, stop it.
Anyway, so Nina, I do think your question is fair, and I'm gonna make sure you get a chance to ask it. But I also think Glock's question is fair. She just kind of what she's asking is, what's the delineation? What's the meaningful distinction between the thing at pre-viability and and I guess you would call it a person post-viability? She just wants to know what's the meaningful distinction between those two things and like where exactly you're drawing the cutoff.
Okay, because then it could exist outside of the body. Then, if that's what you're asking, can it exist without like if I have like a baby, can it exist outside of me?
Well, that's a good question. I don't hold the view that infants can survive on their own. So that's why I'm trying to figure out.
No, can it physically? I understand, like, you know, you have to feed like a baby or whatever. But like if I'm talking about physically, like if you have like a clump of cells, like, you know, like I don't know, like let's see, like maybe 2 months old fetus, right? Like, yeah, it's like it's not, if you take that out, it's not going to be able to survive. It doesn't matter who takes care of it, it's not going to exist, right?
If you put an infant in a room for a week, is it going to survive?
if there's another person to take care of it, sure.
There's not. So I mean, I could just stipulate.
Okay, but you're saying that you just think that for some reason, like, babies like can't, like, they have to have their mothers. Plenty of babies have survived without their moms.
It's a hot take, but children typically need parents to take care of them. But
yeah, but not their biological. They don't need their biological parents. That's like ridiculous. That's like saying like a father can't take care of a baby. That's so silly.
Yeah.
So is that not what she's saying?
I think what Glock is trying to get at here is, I'm going to try to steel man you a bit. So tell me if I'm wrong, please. Okay. Is what it boils down to is that because a child cannot survive completely on its own, that we acknowledge on the panel, everybody on the panel agrees that there is some sort of social obligation, whether it is the actual parent of the child, the biological parent, or somebody else that's near the child has to take care of it. Ergo, the same thing should be applied to a fetus. Is that what you're getting at?
So no, I'm not making any claims right now. I'm trying to understand the view that there's some distinction between, okay, the fetus is using my internal resources, and then once it's out of the room, it's using my maybe external resources, and I'm asking what's the morally relevant.
It doesn't have to use
the moral distinction between the two is that the fetus, while it's inside the body, subsists off of you directly. Versus while outside of the body, it subsists off of the grand scheme of the social setting that in which it exists in. It could be the parents, it could be social, it could be a tribe. It doesn't fucking matter. It's everybody's obligation after that point to ensure that the child is taken care of.
Okay, can I stipulate a hypothetical?
I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So you have, just take it that you have a mother and she just gave birth. She has an infant. They're on vacation. They go up to the cabin in the woods or something like that. Okay. They go really far away. And this mother just decides that she doesn't want to be a parent anymore, or it's just really hard and it's really frustrating. But there's nobody around to transfer the obligation to. Okay. So the mother has two options, right? So in the hypothetical stipulated, you can't transfer the obligation, right? But the mother has an option to either, I guess, commit to this moral duty or whatever and continue taking care of the well-being of her child, or she can just walk out of the cabin and leave the infant there to die. So under the hypothetical where you cannot transfer the obligation, do you think you have a moral duty to your child?
Correct.
So you do. So I don't know why we're throwing in the transferring obligation, because even if you can't, you still have a duty to it. So you can't when you're pregnant, you can't transfer the obligation, and in the hypothetical, you can't transfer the obligation, but it's okay to kill one and not the other. Why?
Because one is a person, the other is not.
Okay,
and that personhood argument, I've already explained this. So let me explain it one more time.
Wait, no. Like I need to respond to what Nina said. She said that our stance is authoritarian. I want to know that Cypher's consciousness stance is going to apply to all animals. And it also says that we should all be vegans because animals are persons too. So if you're calling my stance authoritarian and that you have to support pregnancy, I think saying that everybody should be vegan is even more authoritarian. And also, I just wanted to point out, Cypher and Nina, you're holding completely different positions in personhood. And no, viability and consciousness don't go together. One is saying you become a person when you get consciousness. The other one is saying you become a person when you can live outside the body.
Okay, so the thing that you are missing here is that the reason the legal viability standard was established is because of the weighing of where a mother's body autonomy starts and the fetus's body autonomy starts. And the reason they said 24 weeks is because, one, it is generally speaking a viable pregnancy at that point, and two, because of brain development. Brain development was actually implemented in the viability standards. You can read the Roe arguments and the supporting documentation that went into the legal considerations of establishing the Roe viability standard.
I frankly don't care.
But
why
it
the
matters to my.
I care what your position is.
Yes,
you can't hold two positions. On
it's not contradictory positions. The reason
they are contradictory positions.
They are not contradictory because the law was established for viability because of the existence of a consciousness, to a degree.
Okay, so wait. So how about if you're conscious and then you're not viable?
Then what? Oh, so you're conscious and not viable.
That.
I don't know what you mean. Give me an example. I'd like to know.
You have consciousness, but you're not viable.
Give me an example, please.
Like maybe like an 18 week pregnancy, 18 weeks.
24. The reason that 24 weeks is established is because of brain development. A consciousness.
I'm telling you,
in this
exist.
Case,
it's possible to at least like at least metaphysically possible, that there can
No,
be a fetus
I don't care
at
about
18 weeks is
metaphysical. I
conscious.
don't care about the metaphysical argument here.
God.
We have
18
scientific evidence
18
showing that there
weeks-
is data that supports
18
that
weeks
there can
does
be
not-
consciousness at 18 weeks.
18 weeks does
Okay,
not
but-
establish the neural network required in the brain in order to have a personality and consciousness. It just isn't there. So the metaphysical argument for this does not matter. You have to go based on the biological and scientific argument for this.
Oh, I mean, I could literally just pose a hypothetical, but there is data we can see that at 18 weeks the fetus may have consciousness. And
There is not.
Okay, so do
brain
people in a
synapse for it.
coma, and we still like are okay with like taking them off life support. So like I don't
Depends
really
when you
think
coma,
that necessarily
That's not
is
true.
a strong argument.
The
Oh, no,
18
we can't do that. Okay.
Typically,
just to be clear, I think Nina is talking about brain death coma versus not like consciousness coma with brain activity going on.
yeah. So sorry, you take it that. How do you define sentience or consciousness? Like, what is that in capturing to you?
That encaptures personality, emotions, the ability to have conscious thought, the ability to make moral reasoning to a degree. There are more
Do you think the
kids have
fetus has
moral
the
reasoning.
capacity for these things at? Sorry, what period around
It's
viability?
24 to 27 weeks is the around about time of when the brain develops enough capacity to have those.
Okay. And so why do you believe that? Like, what are you looking at? EEG waves? Like, what do you?
EEG, the brain structure, etc. Like, there's not
Brain
the
You take it like things like personality have like a physical location.
No, in order to have a personality, you have to have the biological capacity for it. So if your brain is smooth, you're not going to have a personality.
What are the necessary conditions to be sentient?
I thought I just listed them. So
No,
if they're necessary, then like 1-year-olds who can't act as moral agents aren't.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you. Can you say that again? It's my headset.
She asked you what are the necessary conditions to be sentient.
Yeah,
You said you listed them, and you listed moral agents.
Brain development, the folds in the brain, the ability to have the synapses fire, etc., etc., etc. Mere brain activity isn't enough to establish that there is sentience. You have to have the physical components that create that, and that requires the brain to be in a certain period of development, and that is, from what we know, between 24 and 27 weeks.
Sorry,
Everybody
Julie,
develops differently.
I didn't get the necessary conditions, but I mean, we can.
Okay, so
Physical
like
brain structure. I can't list them all. I'm not a
Brain
scientist.
structure, that
Yeah.
could mean anything. Just you seem to not know your stance. What is it?
No,
What's
I know what my
necessary?
stance is. I just can't give you the
Yes,
particulars.
he doesn't know the
of-
science. Like,
just
he's
really
a
quick
fucking
too. Sorry,
brain surgeon here. Like, what are you expecting from
if
him?
we had, sorry, if there was evidence that came out, or there was just some strong evidence that the fetus could be sentient at an earlier point. Just say it's like 8 to 10 weeks. Would that make you change your stance, or are you still sticking to viability?
I would probably still stick at viability because outside of the womb, there isn't the ability for the fetus to live in any kind of capacity, really, without extreme distress, pain, etc., etc., etc.
So what you said earlier was wrong. Then you don't hold
No.
consciousness as a standard. You hold viability as a standard.
No, I hold both as a standard.
She said even if the fetus had consciousness, you said I
Yes,
wouldn't
and
care.
then
it's
you have
viability.
to weigh,
You
and
don't
then you
hold
have to.
consciousness as a standard.
Let me finish.
You don't know
And
your
you
own
have.
position.
If you keep talking over me, he's not gonna be able to get up to you.
And you have to weigh the bodily autonomy argument of a woman against the other rights of whatever you want to call the thing that is growing inside her.
And how does that weighing work?
That weighing works on a moral justification for various different things, and that's
You're
how we
saying
came
a
up to
whole
the
lot of
valuability
nothing.
standard.
Just give
No,
me
I
an
am
example
just
of
giving you
work.
the same argument that I've already given you. You just don't like it.
Earlier in this debate, you said they cannot have abortions at 20 to 39 weeks, right?
I believe I said they probably legally speaking they cannot do that unless there is a
I'm just asking morally.
morally they
We're
can
not-
then because
Morally
if you're
they
going
can?
to I do
Yeah,
not
of course.
follow hard and fast rules on these kind of things, because there's always going to be some sort of issue. There's going to be always somebody that falls outside of the range of whatever hard and fast rule that we're going to try to establish. Whether
I'm
that
glad
is a
morally
person,
you can give your child breathing problems, heart problems, brain problems, temperature control problems, digestive system problems, blood problems, metabolism problems, immune system problems, cerebral palsy, trouble learning, vision problems, hearing problems,
for doing what?
problems.
Are you just like listing a bunch of problems?
I'm listing
like,
a bunch
what
of
the
things
fuck
that
does that have
you
to do with
disagree.
anything?
I'm
That we
listing things
agreed
that
to?
you just agreed to was morally
What?
okay to do.
What are you talking about?
I didn't
don't
agree to
even
any of that. I don't understand what you're talking about.
You can have an abortion at the 20
my
to
God.
39 week period. You are agreeing that it's okay to give your fetus all the things I just listed.
No. Wait,
No?
I don't.
Then
You're
it's not
okay.
okay.
You're
What are you
skipping.
talking
You're
about?
skipping. You're skipping a step here, and I think that's where the confusion's coming from.
Is that-
You're saying that
Yeah.
we must agree at the things that you just rattled off because we say that we have a viability standard, right? So where are you getting that from? Why do you say we have to agree to that? Because we're not hearing what you're talking about.
You said that, we have to weigh the mother's bodily autonomy against the fetus's
Mhm.
rights or whatever. And I asked you during this 20 to 39 week period, would you have any sort of problem morally with allowing it? And you said no. And these are all the things that can happen.
I said no because there are some instances where the child, the fetus, whatever you want to call it at that point, is no longer viable for whatever reason. They are not going to be able to live outside of the womb because they suddenly didn't develop, like they had some weird congenital defect that caused their hearts and lungs not to grow properly. There's all sorts of manner of different things that we can say that happen that will allow, even probably under your moral framework, abortion to be moral. Because those are things that are still abortions.
The fetus develops like enough to survive outside the womb without health complications.
It doesn't matter because those health complications can. It doesn't matter because these things can be discovered later on.
Right.
There are plenty of there. Okay. Let's get this out.
Complications at the 20 to 37 week period because the baby isn't developed enough to properly function outside the womb. And I think if you've been holding the baby for 20 weeks without ever choosing, maybe I want to get rid of this baby, then
but you're making a completely different argument. So what you're trying to separate. This is where the problem with these debates always roll. All right, you're trying to separate what you consider to be a permissible abortion, which is an abortion to save the life of the mother, or maybe you don't even care about that. I don't know, but this is generally where it goes. Save the life of the mother. The fetus is no longer viable. There's some sort of congenital defect that's discovered late in pregnancy that's going to, if the fetus is born, going to like die 5 minutes after birth, and it's going to be painful and all this stuff. That is still an abortion. Okay, because the procedure is the same. And then if you're trying to talk about elective abortions, well, we can talk about elective abortions, but because there are still medically and legally the same procedure, then we cannot say for certain that we can eliminate the ability for a mother to have an abortion at any point of the time throughout their pregnancy.
First thing, I just want to get a concession that it's okay to give your fetus these horrible birth defects.
Why would that be a concession?
Okay,
Do you think that we should just rip the...
That's very ridiculous. Okay, so I asked the question earlier,
so
and
are you saying that it's okay
you
to
have
give your fetus
we're just gonna keep talking. Okay, whatever.
That's
ridiculous. What your line of questioning is asking.
I
want to go back to like, why
point.
do you think that having an abortion just across the board is bad?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Julian. We haven't gotten a clear or coherent answer to any of our questions. I still don't know
and we've answered a lot of your questions. You can't answer mine? We asked one question.
In the middle of a question. You can just hold on a bit. But so
well, hang on. It is fair. So I did tell Nina I'll make sure she gets to ask that question because I do think it's fair. It's been a little bit. Let's give her a chance to ask her own questions and.
Okay. Can I just make it clear to the audience watching that the original question on the table that I asked was...
Okay, so you're not going to answer my question.
Sorry, Zen, am I able to wrap this up? And
okay. Make your final point on that note, and then Nina, you'll get to ask your question next.
Okay. So I just wanted to make it clear that the original question I put on the table in the first 5 minutes of the debate was, what's the morally relevant difference between your internal resources that you use to take care of a child versus your external resources? In one situation, it's okay to kill it, and when it's not. So I just tried to find out the morally relevant difference, I guess. Didn't get an answer to that or to any of this. So So I just take that as a concession. We can go ahead and continue.
There's a distinction. The distinction is the fact that it is subsisting off of your own body, and your own body has autonomy. You have autonomy over your own body. If you don't like the body autonomy argument, that's fine. But don't
restate it.
Let's come back to this in a second. Settle down. Nina, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes.
I do think it's pertinent. Go ahead.
I feel like we're getting a little bit into the weeds in these, I don't know, technicalities or something, but, or like too much into the philosophy, I suppose, which is always a fun argument to have. But I think, and we're talking about the real world, very simple question, complicated answers, of course. What is the problem with being pro-choice? As in, abortions are legal to have. Why do you think that's a problem?
Just haven't heard a good argument for it.
The problem, we gave you our stance. We gave you that depriving.
Well, then what argument do you have that they're bad?
Well, do you have any critique of the future like ours argument we gave in the beginning? I actually, Cypher said this claims that everyone.
I don't care about that argument. I want you to tell me why you think it's bad. I think that people have the right to choose. You can have your own moral argument about it. Like internally, a lot of people like think, you know, that they do have that.
You don't care about
that you're saying.
This is our argument. Our argument is future like ours.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm asking you the question. Why is it bad? Why? I assume your stance is that you want
they have a future like ours. That's why it's bad. This is the argument.
When does a okay Nina, go ahead. I will I will address some of these philosophical arguments later, but I think Nina should get her say, and I think that this is important too, because there is a argument for legal abortion versus moral or immoral abortion. Okay.
Yeah, just want to focus on the title too. It says ethics of abortion, so I assume that we're just talking about the morality of abortion. I'm silent.
That includes
on
legal
ethics. No, okay. So what? Okay, well maybe we're on. Maybe this is what our problem is of not seeing eye to eye, and why I don't understand like some of your guys' arguments is because when we're talking about ethics of abortion, I think of like the legal ramifications of abortion, like being legal or not legal, and to me, I see significantly more damage. I live in Texas, right? And I don't think somebody should be like jailed or like have to face like the death penalty because they have an abortion, because that opens up an insanely bad system where people are forced to have to like basically almost die because you know, their fetus might be dead in their body, and then the doctors are not going to take it out because they're worried about the legal ramifications of things like that. So we're talking about ethics. That's what I think that we're talking about when it comes to the ethics of this, like the actual legal like consequences for something like abortion being illegal, because the procedure, like, you know, Clack had said earlier about like C-sections, that could be considered an abortion. So what, we just like don't do C-sections like because they're going to be worried about like that being considered an abortion? Like that is the thing that I think in the material world is important to talk about.
You know, what are ethics?
What are ethics?
Yeah, what are ethics?
It depends on what we're talking about.
No, what do
you want just like the exact definition? I'm not sure what the exact definition is.
You don't know.
Let me look it up for you.
Then.
So,
I mean, ethics is going to be different depending on the subject.
Well, yeah,
that's very silly for you to say that. Just ethics means.
What do you take ethics to be?
Well, I mean, generally, we're talking about the you know, good or bad of things, right?
Good
like,
or bad.
Better?
Do you think everything that's bad we have to make legally?
Moral principles to
like,
govern a person's behavior. Yeah, literally in the definition.
You think if I say being mean is wrong, I have to make that legally impermissible too? If I say, is
that what I'm saying?
Being mean is wrong, do I have to make that legally impermissible?
I mean,
no, that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the question: is abortion right or wrong?
We can't.
We're not talking about any legal systems we're going to be imposing.
No, you can't. You can't.
I'm
you
fine
can't
with
separate
that.
the two.
We can have that argument though, but like, I'm fine with that. Is it right or wrong? Sure, same argument. My statement still stands on what I said. Is it abortion right or wrong?
Yeah. So when you asked us, sorry if I'm tracking this conversation, are you still trying to find an answer to why we aren't pro-choice? Why we think abortion's wrong? I'm confused.
Why do you not whether you think abortion is wrong per se, but whether or not having it legally permissible is ethical?
Oh, I didn't know that we were here to have a legality debate about
you
legal
have to
cases.
have you
About
can't
the
talk about
ethics
abortion. You can't talk
Okay.
about the philosophy of abortion without talking about the legal stance
That's
of
not
it.
true. That's
because
you're like the first
be-
person to say that. That's not true.
no, because
Okay, then we're just talking about philosophy here, and it's pointless. Like, kind
Wait,
of
sorry,
a
by
conversation.
pointless.
Well,
wait,
okay,
sorry.
hang on,
The
hang
way
on.
that you
Let me-
vote. Okay.
Hang
go
on,
ahead.
real quick. So you guys are kind of hitting a wall here. Glock and Clack want to talk about the morality first, and Cypher and Nina want to implement legality into their argument. And I do think legality is pertinent to ethics debates, but I also understand why somebody might say that you have to establish some moral system first to inform the legal system.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that legality is completely irrelevant to this debate. So you guys have to find a way to meet common ground here. Go ahead, Cypher.
yeah. So Glock had already said that all things equal, killing is wrong, right? But but also said that there are instances where killing is morally justified, right, Glock?
Correct.
Okay, so why doesn't that apply to abortion?
Well, sorry, I haven't been given the justification or any external considerations as to why it's morally permissible then to kill the fetus.
I'm sorry, I
Burden's
didn't.
not. They don't hold the view that there's some external considerations such that it's okay to kill the fetus. That's your
Why
burden.
not?
That's not my burden.
No. Wait,
Well,
no,
they don't have
it's,
prima facie
no.
They haven't been presented.
You
What do you
guys
mean?
you guys are the pro argument, so you have to make the pro argument side of this. So you have to tell me
Right.
why it is unethical to have abortion be legal in the sense
Cypher, do you know what
because.
prima facie means?
Tell me.
Are you-
I want to know what you think.
Prima facie is just going to refer to on the surface. So all Glock and I are saying is on the surface, abortion seems morally wrong. And
You can't
until
have
we
it on
hear
the.
anything
Yeah, I don't
that-
care about the
the
prima
meaning
facie.
you
Then the
can't
prima
have
facie
it.
argument is useless because everything operates in gray. Because there's always going to be some external
It's just a
external factor.
misunderstanding.
This is, you got
No,
like a
it's
baby
a-
brain
it
argument
is-
here. Like, it's just,
I mean, no, it's not a misunderstanding. We got to argue about what is going to be actually useful for the audience and useful for this debate. Prima facie, yeah, killing is wrong, but except in the sense of self-defense, but except in the act of defending your property, but except this and except that. Then the prima facie argument is completely bollocks, and nobody wants to have that debate.
I really don't know how any of
If
this
it's so bad, just give us a reason that defeats the prima facie justification. Should be pretty easy for you.
The
what?
prima facie, because
Give something that
operate in-
defeats the prima facie
We
justification.
already
We are trying to do that.
talked
We're trying to
about
get into the details here. Like,
Okay,
what-
give me the reason.
because there's instances where it's not.
so
Yes.
so by instances, like that's what I assume this conversation's about. Like, can you go ahead and list the
I gave some.
considerations?
I gave
Yeah,
some
like if the
already.
mother's gonna die.
Well, no, sorry, no. I'm asking I'm asking why it's okay to get an abortion. Like, if we have prima facie justification for why it's wrong, and then you're saying that there's external considerations such that it's okay to kill the fetus. What are those?
We
And
have-
you're not gonna accept what I said?
What are the
Yeah,
external
if-
considerations
yeah,
why it's
if you're
okay
talking
to kill the
Nina.
If
fetus?
she's gonna
So you're pro-life
die.
with the exception of the mother's life? No, you're not. So rethink.
I'm sorry,
like,
what?
get
We're
a
not
position where-
pro-life. We're not, neither one of us
You're
are
not
pro-life.
tax-
You're the pro-life people.
just
What are you
not-
talking
yeah.
about? Are you
You're
like,
not
like not
taxing
even
it.
understanding like which position you have?
Right, you're not
You're saying the
tracking-
only exception to the
I don't know
prima
why
facie
we're laughing.
justification is death. Then you're with us.
This is
Like, you're
funny.
with us. It's a
What?
3v1 now. Like,
Oh
So
my god.
I'm
I
asking.
don't even know what level you're at
Yeah,
here.
so you're
like,
saying.
I'm asking you a very simple question, and you
An
keep like doing
answer.
these weird like whatever
An
thing.
answer.
I'm saying like, why is abortion bad, motherfuckers? Can
An
you please
answer.
just answer that?
Answered. Wait, so I don't know how you're speaking. It's been answered. The question's been answered multiple times.
Okay, well,
Right.
then the question's been
So-
answered multiple times on our
So
end too. So like we're just going in
maybe
circles.
that's an error. Like, maybe that's like a self-error issue. I'm not sure, but we can restate it for the
Mhm.
third time, and then past that, maybe you or your
Mhm.
partner can give us the external considerations to why it's okay or permissible to kill the fetus. Does that work?
I mean, I thought we already did, but go ahead.
Okay. So all I heard was that a consideration is that, oh, it's using your internal resources. And when I asked what the morally relevant difference is between your internal versus external resources, because Nina agreed that a parental obligation enacts at some point in which you would have to use your external resources. I didn't get an answer to
Do
what's the
you
morally
agree
relevant
that there's a difference between an external resource and an internal resource?
a descriptive difference. Can you give me a morally relevant difference?
I mean, is cancer? Do I have to keep a cancer cell?
I mean,
growing
one's
in
a
my body?
choice and one
Uh,
one's a choice and one's
does a cancer cell have a future like ours?
not.
It could.
A cancer cell could have a future like
No,
ours?
I'm trolling you, dude. I'm fucking
Yeah,
fucking
okay.
with you.
Okay. So
Answer the
Do
question.
you, wait.
when I
do you,
guess my issue is when I ask what's the morally relevant difference, I'm just answered with, oh, it's different. One's internal, one's external. Okay, great. I'm asking what's the morally relevant difference.
Which one? One's a choice and one's not.
If I can finish my
one's
question.
One's a choice to being a parent. If you're talking about being an adoptive parent, you're both parents, right? Whether you're not biological or whatever, like one's a choice and one is not. So internally, you don't have a choice. Like, I think that, you know, you should know this at least. Like, if you don't have a choice to like not like in terms of like your physical body, like
because
just
like you like we went through this. So instead of talking to you, I'll instead of talking to you, I'll just talk to the audience. Yeah, we already went through this. So
okay, well, we're talking to me, so I really would hope you would be talking to me.
You're not talking, and I think the audience is. So.
When we're talking about internal resources, we're talking about your body. You don't have an option to do that. It's
so what she's saying is
obligatory. Oh my God, no, you're talking to me. Please. Okay, you're gonna just say what she's saying. Okay,
what she's saying. Yeah, I'll just.
All right. This is way too much fucking woman prattle.
Wait,
one at a time.
She's trying to talk to her chat. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to talk to you.
That's fair. Yeah, let's try to keep it, a conversation, a dialogue with each other, not with the audience, and let you know. So try. Okay, Neenia, go ahead. Go ahead with what you were gonna say.
Yeah, well, we're talking about internal resources. It's like not a choice. External resources, there are obviously more of them, and obviously it's not just something that you can just like, external resources are something that can be transferred to somebody else, like you're saying with the transfer thing. You don't have the option to do that when we're talking about internal resources.
Okay, so maybe I can just give you a refresher.
Unless we're seahorses.
Okay, maybe I can also talk without being interrupted. So I'll give you a refresher of a hypothetical I asked you about 40 minutes ago. So in the hypothetical that I stipulated, because I know you're ready to talk, hold on. In the hypothetical that I stipulated, you weren't able to transfer the obligation. There was nobody around. You cannot transfer the obligation. And you didn't want to be a parent anymore. And you agreed that you still
you asked a question about internal and external. You're just pivoting. You're literally just pivoting right now.
You don't know what pivoting is. You're not tracking the conversation.
You're just talking about something completely different. Yes, I am tracking the conversation. You're just being patronizing and weird about this.
Tracking the conversation. Tell us
about guys, we cannot keep up this woman.
I'm getting interrupted in my
interrupting.
Wait,
I understand. Both sides are doing it. We really got to keep this under control.
I mean, I'm trying to keep it on.
Hang on, Neenia. Hang on, Neenia. I've been going to you and giving you the opportunity. I'm going to give Block now the opportunity. Continue with your hypothetical. Neenia, please don't interrupt until the end. Cypher, if you want to jump in and answer, you can. But guys, try not to interrupt so much.
Okay.
I'll write it down.
So if the view is that the morally relevant difference between your internal resources versus external resources are that when it's externally, the fetus is outside the womb, you can transfer the obligation. Right? The only option isn't just to kill it if you don't want to opt into this obligation, right? And so I stipulated a hypothetical with a born child where there's no more internal resources needed, right? And I stipulated the hypothetical such that a mother and her infant are in a cabin in the woods and there's no society around them, okay? And the mother doesn't want to be a parent anymore. She wants to opt out of this parental obligation, but there's nobody around to transfer the obligation to. Neenia conceded 40 minutes ago that you cannot just sit there and let the infant die. You can't walk out. You can't kick the infant outside on the porch and let it die. You have some moral duty to take care of it, even if you can't transfer the obligation. So then it follows that that's obviously a contradiction to her view.
Do you agree?
No,
do you
because
understand?
You literally just conceded that in your statement right there that internal resources are different than external. So that was my entire point.
Did you hear anything I just said and then responded with that?
I literally wrote it down.
They're saying there's some descriptive difference, not any prescriptive difference. Like I
prescriptive difference requires there to be body autonomy, and you have to acknowledge that body autonomy has a factor in this. And if you don't want to accept that as the answer for this, for the difference of the difference between internal and external resources, then this entire line of questioning is useless because you're not accepting our argument as being a key difference.
Julian, just want to make it clear that was a whole contradiction, by the way. So if the morally relevant difference has to do with transferring obligation, and you stipulate a hypothetical in which you can't transfer the obligation, and they say you still have some moral duty, that's a contradiction. And there hasn't been a revision.
It's not a contradiction because
how is that not a contradiction?
Because the difference is that we already talked about, which was the other thing of personhood. After the child is born, the fetus is born, they have a personhood, and then it becomes everyone's responsibility in order to care for that child and assume the child has some ability to live. And it doesn't make it's not a future like ours argument. It's a consciousness argument. It is a personhood argument.
So we're making a revision. It's not bodily. So bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy takes into account, but also personhood. They're both matter. They're not contradictions.
Okay. So what's so it sounds just like you're making a revision to your stance. It sounds like it was bodily autonomy, but you consider consciousness, and now it's like, oh, if the fetus.
I consider consciousness. I always consider consciousness.
You said earlier in this debate.
I did say earlier that the bodily autonomy matters, and the reason the bodily autonomy matters is because at 6 weeks or whatever the hell else you're talking about, there is no ability for that child to actually exist outside of the womb at all, and therefore it is subsisting off of the body of another person completely.
Oh, I have a question too. So if you have a fetus that's born in a coma, like the fetus is born comatose, it's outside of the womb, right? So the bodily autonomy thing.
Define comatose. I want to make sure that we're going to be on the same page.
So I need to define what a coma is.
No, I know what a coma is, but are you talking about brain dead coma, or are you talking about brain activity coma?
No, it could be just like a fetus where they're assumed to be conscious in the future.
No, I don't care about the consciousness in the future.
Okay,
go ahead.
So,
Sorry, I didn't mean
the fetus is born into a coma. Let's just say that we have good reason to believe that the fetus is going to be conscious within the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, but the fetus is born into a coma, right? Is it okay to kill the fetus? I'm sorry, the infant. The fetus is born. Sorry.
Well, how the fuck would you know that?
That's a great question, Nina. Cypher, do you think it's okay to kill the fetus? The infant? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I greatly apologize. I was distracted by track. I will close it out so that doesn't happen again. Can you just repeat it? That's all.
Yeah, no worries. I know it's pretty distracting. So you have a fetus, right? Or an infant, because it was just born. It's born into a coma. We have good reason to believe that the infant will come out of this coma within 3 to 5 years. Okay, so the bodily autonomy thing's out of the way because it's not using the mother's internal resources, but it's born into a coma. Is it okay to kill it?
Okay, so it's born in a coma with brain activity. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Sorry, I don't know why brain activity is relevant.
Because that's the word conscious is.
Well, no, they're not.
Yes, it is. That's where consciousness exists.
You think people in a coma are conscious? I don't know how we're defining the term.
Consciousness. There is brain activity. There is the ability to perceive as far as the brain is concerned.
Okay, so all you need is to have
it's not simple brain activity because synapses can fire, but there can still be brain death.
So it doesn't make sense for the fetus to be born into a coma, but have the same brain neuronal development as a standard fetus that's not born into a coma. If a fetus is born into a coma, and there is the ability for consciousness, not consciousness, in the future, not at the moment.
It does no, because there are still brain synapses happening, right? So that there's a child there. There's a person.
Hold on. I want to be clear on the view then. So brain synapses equals consciousness.
Okay. Does a being? I know. I'm sighing because this is something that I don't feel like I should have to explain. Does a person with not a person, does a thing with a smooth brain have consciousness?
Do you want me to answer that after you answer my question that I put on the table?
I guess we just gotta answer your question.
I am getting there.
Typically, well, it doesn't sound like a clarifying question. Typically, when I ask a question, I expect an answer, and then I'll answer your question. So the question I laid out on the table, just so we all remember, was brain synapses equals consciousness.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Question. Okay, hold on. So you said that if the infant who's born into a coma has brain activity.
Activity, correct. Brain activity of the capability of having a conscious, because there is brain activity, quote unquote, inside a fetus at fucking 12 weeks, because the brain is developing, but there's no enough development present to have a consciousness. There's not the brain. There's smooth brain. They have some chemical electric activity that's going there that is brain activity, but it is not the development enough to have a consciousness, emotions, personality, feelings, etc., etc., etc. All these things are important to the argument.
Great. So I'll just go back to the hypothetical. Infant is born in a coma. okay, has the same brain activity as maybe they do when they're about like 6 to 8 weeks old. Okay, brain just starts developing or something like that. We have good reason to believe, though, that they will be conscious, have some conscious sentient experience in 3 to 5 years.
You don't know that.
Sorry, do you know what a hypothetical is?
That's okay, fine. You go for it.
So the hypothetical stipulated that the infant is going to be in a coma. We have good reason to believe that they'll come out of a coma in 3 to 5 years. Is it morally permissible to kill the infant?
Sure. I'll bite the bullet.
You have it here, guys. Killing comatose infants. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we love it when you can just kill comatose infants.
Okay.
Well, we do that with like
okay. I don't think Terry Schiavo should have been
really
forced to stay alive either. So I don't
Go ahead,
see that
Julian.
this is different.
I just have a question about bodily autonomy. Do you think it's more important than the right to life?
Body
What is the
autonomy?
right to
You
life?
can't have the right to life without body autonomy.
So do you think
You're a
it's more
slave
important
if you don't have body autonomy.
Do you think it's more important than the right to life?
You can't have one without the other. It's not.
I'm just asking you, if I had to compare these two rights, which one's is more important? The right to life, the right to bodily autonomy?
Right to body autonomy, because being a slave is stupid.
Okay, so is something like dueling okay, or fighting to the death, which you forego your life to maintain like absolute control over your body?
Sure.
I mean, if you want to do
Sure,
it,
I mean,
okay.
it's illegal.
And they
It's
wanna kill
illegal for
comatose
whatever
infants.
reason, but
They want to legalize dueling. Like, what is wrong with these people?
What?
But you didn't want to talk about the legal arguments. We're obviously
I'm sorry.
legal
sorry.
arguments.
I think dueling.
If we're talking about morally, I think like you can do it if you want. I
what's
guess.
the
Okay.
what's the
No,
moral? What's the
I think
moral?
dueling's
What's?
morally permissible. My bad.
I'm sorry. Say again.
My bad. I didn't mean to say legal. Dueling is morally permissible.
Why
Yeah,
is
I think it's like
dueling? Why
I
should
guess.
dueling be not morally permissible?
I mean, it just seems to be the case. I just have a moral intuition against it. And I think
But
everyone
that's not an
watching
explanation.
also
That's a
has moral
huge
intuition.
cop out.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you take intuition to be a cop-out?
Yes, because
Yes.
that is not
What are your-
not
sorry,
an
what are your-
examining of
Just
what
ask
you're
what an
talking
intuition
about.
is.
So
They
why?
probably
No,
don't know.
why? We haven't answered your question. We've gone through your like entire thing. Please, can we just have you answer one of our questions?
Yeah, the point is because
Why is
the first question that you
Why
asked was,
is
why aren't you guys pro-choice, right? And the reason.
Why isn't dueling
Oh, that's the new question. Okay.
or yes, that was what we literally
So
just.
I have. Yeah, I haven't. Sorry, I believe it's wrong. I have some ethical intuition that it's wrong.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
but
let's-
an
let's-
unexamined
Okay, hang
moral
on, hang on.
intuition
I'm gonna
is not,
back you. Hang
not
on.
useful.
Cypher,
Yeah, you
real
don't-
quick. I'm gonna help you guys out here because I think this is the same answer that you guys gave earlier when Nina asked, why is abortion or permitting abortion wrong? You guys just kind of said, well, it seems to be the case that it's bad or whatever. It was like I kind of understand their reaction to that. It's like, well, you're just kind of repeating the claim. It's bad because it seems to be bad. Like what is there to even debate in that regard? Like
Well,
they
yeah,
want to
what
know
makes it-
why it's bad.
The point is, we have commonly held intuitions, like about suicide, murder, death.
I don't
and
think
everyone can
suicide is
agree,
wrong.
Have like
I
an
don't-
intuition that these things are
Yeah,
wrong.
not inherently.
Right? In the same way, we'd have an intuition that dueling is wrong, right?
Yeah, but
Okay,
that's not that
Okay, hang on,
that
hang on. I'm gonna
appeal.
help you hang on real quick. I'm gonna help you out again, Cypher. They clearly disagree with you guys on the right. They say, well, suicide doesn't seem to be wrong, dueling doesn't seem to be wrong, abortion doesn't seem to be wrong. So the answer cannot be it just seems to be the case that it's wrong. That cannot be your answer in a debate. I'm just being a neutral moderator here. You got to give something more than that in order for them to chew on.
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't know if that was towards us. I don't know what things
Yes.
typically are gonna. I mean, what do things typically bottom out to? That's just us directly answering your question.
I just want like you to extrapolate on what you're just saying. Like, no, I don't like. No, that it's just wrong. Like,
You're
I want
saying,
you
why
to
do you think it's
talk
wrong?
about why.
Yeah, you're saying why do you think it's wrong, and I can just give you some like descriptive fact. Like I don't know what you want me to give you other than
What
Okay,
in
we
your
have to do a
opinion, you
pause
as a
question
human
first.
being person that I'm speaking to right now, why do you think something like suicide is always wrong?
I don't
Who
again,
made
I
that
don't know what
claim?
the question is targeting. Without us just restating that we think it's wrong, the only thing lying under that is going to be
Because
some,
you're
like,
not saying
moral
why.
axiom.
Yeah, what's your moral axiom? That's what the whole thing is about. Prima facie.
I think
I
there's.
want to
just, like, a
know
lack
what
of-
your values are. Like, why is it wrong to you? Do you think that people shouldn't be able to like do like assisted suicide if they're like terminal?
That's
No.
probably going to be some.
No
I don't
one
know
said
the
that,
Julian
right?
rules on that, but I
But
don't. know.
I just
That's why
wanna
I'm asking you.
see
I'm asking you the question because I want to understand your values. I'm trying
if your
to
moral
good faith
judgments
ask
don't
you
bottom
your
out at
opinion.
intuitions, what do they bottom out to?
I'm
That's
asking.
right.
Well, let's figure it out. I'm trying to
Yeah.
ask you right now. Like,
Let's just-
can you
we're
please
just giving
answer
you a
my
direct
question?
answer.
Why do you think that suicide is always wrong?
So again, I don't know what the question's asking, other than we have some foundational belief, or we have some intuition that it's wrong.
That's why I'm asking you the follow-up question. So if I'm gonna say, like, I'm going to give you an example. So do you think, I mean, like, it's like taking like a political comments test. I'm going to ask you a question and I would like you to respond so we can figure this out. Because I don't know you that well. Like, I want to get to know you and your positions. Okay. So why do you think that suicide is wrong? And the question I'm going to ask you to maybe like get further into that, because I know it's kind of a nebulous question in some ways, is that, do you think that if somebody is terminally ill, that they should be able to have an assisted suicide so they have a dignified death?
Okay, so you asked 2 questions in that. Which one do you want us to answer?
No, it was just the last one. Do you think that people should be able to do assisted suicide to have a dignified death if they're terminally ill?
Yeah, we can answer the assisted suicide next, but I just want to say in epistemology, there are 3 main
Can you
beliefs
please,
about
for the love of God, answer the question?
Morality. There's foundationalism, implementism, and coherentism. One's going to claim your moral beliefs are justified by an infinite chain of justification. The next one's going to claim your moral beliefs have to cohere with each other. And the third option is going to claim that it boils down to this, it has a pyramid structure. And at the very bottom, it's just going to be justified by intuitions.
Okay, but can you tell me, as a human being talking to me right now, can you please answer the question? Do you think that if somebody is terminally ill and they want to have assisted suicide that's going to be dignified, where like their entire family is going to be around them, they're not going to be suffering, and they just get to pass gently, do you think that they should be allowed to do that?
Sure. What's the follow-up question?
Can I get the response from your partner?
I mean, yeah, like, imagine if someone was going to suffer, like, for the rest of their life. Should they be able to commit suicide? That doesn't seem like they have a future like ours, so sure. Okay.
So you then would agree that suicide is not inherently a bad thing.
I don't know what's meant by inherently.
Never made that claim.
We made that claim, yeah.
Okay, so you think that morally, then suicide is neutral because it can be. I assume that you would also agree that if somebody is like, has like lost a bunch of money and then they kill themselves, that's probably a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
You commit suicide in that
like,
way.
what do you mean by neutral? If like there's like a 97% chance war is going to be wrong and a 3% chance it's justified, are you going to say, oh, that's just a neutral, war is just a neutral thing? I just don't know what you mean by neutral here. Because it seems in most cases
the action itself isn't.
No one's making like a
good or bad. You absolutely were saying that suicide was bad. You said very directly that you guys said that suicide was bad.
Prima facie justification means it's okay in all cases.
No, you said in this conversation that suicide was bad. So you cannot now
mix up in language. We're not. It's just a mix up in language.
Yes, that's what the point of like this conversation is. If we're just gonna like go into some rhetorical argument. You said that suicide was bad.
Yeah, I said there's prima facie justification to believe suicide is bad.
No, when you didn't say prima facie, you just literally said it.
It's gonna overrule the prima facie justification.
Okay, is there a point to like, I don't mind the line of questioning. It just
I'm trying to understand what your positions are. So you're just gonna like kind of weasel your way out of like saying anything generally. I mean, I appreciate you going into that, but like, okay, so why do you think that abortion is bad and not more of a neutral thing? Because I think that we understand that most times abortion's probably not great, right? Like it's not like for funsies. But like we're talking like a moral value with this. Like there is a lot of justified reasons to have an abortion, considering like if your fetus is dead inside you or the mother's gonna die. Like we're on the same page with this, right? So I don't understand how you can possibly say that abortion is bad in every situation unless I am misinterpreting what you guys were saying.
The misinterpretation. We didn't say that it's bad in every case.
So then it should be legal.
Sorry, I don't know how that follows.
If it's not bad in every single case, so what is the rule? What is the utilitarian rule to make it illegal to have an abortion if we acknowledge that there's instances where it can be morally justified?
Wait, can I just point out how dumb what you just said was? So if killing is not wrong in every single case, it follows we should just make all killing legal.
No.
Well,
can I just-
obviously,
No.
that's not at all what we're saying.
No, that's why I no, Clack. That's why I separated killing from murder, because these things matter. Abortion, it is the same procedure to vacate a dead fetus inside a woman is the same procedure. It's the same abortion to do it for a live procedure. This is why these things are irrelevant.
I'm making the distinction between killing and murder. Murder is just going to be analytically wrong because all it means is the unjust killing.
Glock made that distinction. That's what we had a debate on the very beginning of this damn discussion.
Right.
You're not saying anything meaningful if you're saying murder is wrong. It's just analytically true. What's the point of bringing that up?
That's just appeal to intuition again. Like, no.
Appeal to
reason there's
intuition.
murder-
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's wrong because it's wrong.
No, I mean we don't have to get into that whole debate. It's gonna take up too much
Yeah, we
time.
don't
But just
need
to
to
answer
do it.
Nina's question
We-
as clearly as possible, like if this isn't clear. So Julie and I have been defending. We haven't even gone into responsibility conditions, but we've been defending the future like ours argument, which is essentially just stating that killing someone, or sorry, I don't know exactly form off the top of my head, but killing someone with has a future like ours is prima facie morally wrong.
Okay, so do
abortion-
you? So if killing someone with a is if you want to go into the into this weird future like ours debate, fine. So do you think
That's the
that
argument.
the state? No, that is your argument, right? Yeah. So let's get to it then.
Silent
So do
on
you
the
think the
state?
state?
let's do
Do you
it.
think the state should be murdering people that have committed murder?
Relevance?
Relevance, right?
It is-
someone
they
could
have a
say-
What are
future
you
like
in like
ours.
a courthouse or?
Again, yeah, relevance
the
and
same-
number one,
it is
silent
the
on the
relevant-
state for like the 30th time that I'm not making any
It's
legal
to
claims.
establish your positions, like we
I
said
don't
earlier.
have to make legal claims. I don't know why you think I have to
No,
make any
we're not talking about
claims.
legal claims. We're
Well,
asking
it's
your
a fair
opinion.
question.
We're asking
Hang on,
your
it's a fair-
opinion.
it's- real quick, it's a fair question to say, like, do you take a moral or ethical objection to the state enacting death penalty or something?
Can I rephrase?
well, It's
Yep,
really
go ahead.
easy to answer this
Zach,
question,
let me
right? The
let me
murderer is
rephrase.
not gonna have a-
Please let me rephrase. Okay. So the argument is that this is a future like ours. That means you presuppose that a individual has the ability to have a future and that it is morally wrong to end that future. You're saying basically there is a moral obligation to not necessarily ensure that there's somebody has a future, but not end it, right? Is that what that's basic argument of a future like ours is?
Are you saying a future is a potential thing?
No, we're
A
asking
future
you to
is a
explain what the
potential thing,
future
but I'm
like
asking-
ours.
Okay. Well, this is perfect.
Can you
right?
explain what the
No,
future
wait,
like?
wait, Nina. Well, let me
No,
address this.
I'm
So if you're saying the future is just a potential thing, you're rejecting eternalism, right?
we're not talking about internalism. So
Yes, we are talking because in eternalism,
I want
the
you.
future
Okay,
is a
let's.
real thing.
Can Julian
What is
answer?
the
'Cause
future like
Julian-
ours
sorry,
argument?
Julian- yeah, well, I've
this is
already laid out
missing
the
my
argument,
point.
But he asked a question about saying that the
Yeah.
future is just potential. So Julian was answering the question.
No, that's missing the point. So
Yeah, it's not missing the point because the future is not a potential thing through eternalism. The future exists just as much as the present.
okay,
and the
so
past.
and a person
I'm just
has the
wondering why
right
you
to
reject
right.
eternalism.
So
I
the
do
reason
like
I say potential is because you can't know what's going to fucking happen in 10 minutes from now. A fucking jetliner could crash into my house and I'll be dead, right? You can't ensure that someone has a future, so it's potential in that regard, right? But it exists, right? And so what you guys are saying is that because it exists, that you do have a moral obligation to not end someone's future, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Okay, so then are you also against the death penalty?
I mean, I don't see how that's relevant. I don't think murder.
It's relevant because your entire axiom rests on the fact that there is a future like ours, which means that you cannot end someone's future by through more any means because it's morally
I mean,
It's not by
unjustified.
any means. It's not by any means. So it's
Okay, well then explain. Then
That's why
I
we keep-
misunderstand your argument. Please explain
Yeah.
what this is.
Well, I think that's why, because you keep throwing out the prima facie out the window, and I think that's why Julian was trying to explain that, there's some moral strike at first glance at this, right? This isn't including all external considerations. We've talked about this in the beginning of the discussion.
Yes, and then that's why
Yeah.
we're all but prima it's not
It's
prima
not in
facie
all
because
cases.
I don't
know what the
I don't
generalization
think killing is wrong. I think murder is wrong. Murder is an act of killing that is morally unjustifiable.
You're saying
It's not
nothing
prima
when
facie.
you're saying murder is wrong. It's just analytically true. You're saying
Why is
broadly
it
killing
analytically
someone is
true?
Wrong. It's just an analytically
Why is it
true.
analytically true?
Because it's just made true by the statements. Like a bachelor is an unmarried man. It's just made true by the.
But that is
statements
what
of-
you're relying on when you're talking about prima facie arguments.
Right.
What?
Prima facie. You're making the prima facie argument that killing is wrong. I don't think killing is wrong prima facie. I think murder is wrong. And the reason the murder is wrong is because it is taking the life of another individual and and stopping their personhood.
Okay, maybe there's a disagreement about one of the premises. Do you disagree that one of the reasons why killing maybe you or Nina would be wrong is because you wouldn't have a future had I not killed you?
No. It is morally wrong
No?
because it creates a society in which killing is permissible and that can have other implications.
Okay, how
as
about
well.
if I did an isolation and society was unaware of what I did?
Then that would be between you and your God.
Me and my God?
Yeah,
Permissible?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure,
just
why
permissible
not?
to kill?
we're having fun with these arguments, sir. Why not?
Oh, okay. Now it's just permissible to kill random people if there's no society.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wait, sorry.
Well,
If that's what you're
was
getting
the
from
judge
this,
you
that's
on that?
fine. I'm actually just trolling.
Like 20 minutes ago, Nina asked us.
I mean, if you're gonna be objective about that, I would imagine like killing would probably be like not
interrupt Julian. Why
good
do you
in
interrupt
terms
me?
of.
The reason
What?
Interrupt Julian. Why does she interrupt me? It's like every time
Because I was looking out.
It's just misogyny. It's a
It
generalized
has nothing to do
misogyny.
with you, my dude.
Um,
Like, what the fuck?
So I was
Why
just
are you
saying that.
like now bitching about that me interrupting when?
All right. That's the third
Christ.
strike. Woman prattle is going to be stopped right now. We're going to closing statements. Usually there's not a good time for this, but that was the perfect time.
Yikes. Okay.
Clack and Glaucoma, you guys opened first, so you're going to close last. Cypher, Nina, you guys get 5 minutes each for your closing statements. Then we're going to get on to callers and whatnot. So whichever wants to go first, go ahead. Cypher or Nina.
I'll just do one real quick. I just think that a lot of this is just avoiding the question. Seems like a lot of like, kind of like, I don't know, adjacent ad hom. Seems like you didn't really actually want to engage with the conversation. You just wanted to like kind of talk around them. You had some weird argument that you didn't want to explain what it is, and then like got pissed off when like I didn't understand what the fuck you were saying. And that kind of seems like a you problem, to be honest, where it's like you're not really making your point very clear. And I think that's your intention. I honestly think that's a very intentional process that you're doing, where you're intentionally trying to be obtuse because I can't nail you down in anything if you don't say anything. Because when I asked you questions to try and nail you down in your positions, you were very evasive on them, and you would just go into either a script or like some like weird like, oh, I don't know why you're asking me this type of thing, like, which I think is very ridiculous and very obvious that you're just trying to avoid actually having any actual positions, because I don't think that you do have positions. I think the guy wearing the Make America Great Again hat, who's never gone to any sort of anti-abortion rally or any sort of even Trump rally, doesn't actually give a fuck. He's just a little clout chaser. And I think that, not that I know anything about you that much either, Glaucoma, but I would imagine you probably have the same mentality where you don't actually give a fuck about anything that you say. You're just trying to be a obtuse weirdo that doesn't actually give a fuck.
Weirdo. Interesting.
All right, is that it for your
Why are you
closing
still
statement,
talking during my fucking closing statement?
Nina? Is your closing statement done, Nina?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for your closer. Cypher, you've got 5 minutes on the clock whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to get into it too much, but I don't like the future like ours argument because it presupposes that everyone is guaranteed a future, or at least the potential for a future. At least is what I read and I was trying to get to. But if that is not what the case is, then maybe somebody can provide me with a better definition, better stuff than what my research was able to provide on this prior to this debate. I'm not trying to besmirch anybody's positions here, so if that's not your position, I apologize. That's just what I read into prior to this debate. Depriving one of all experiences, activities, projects, and enjoyments that would otherwise have constituted one's future. And that is why I asked the murder question by the state. So I don't think the prima facie arguments are very useful. I believe that that we operate in a world of moral gray areas, which is why there are some instances where you cannot have something as a rule outlawed or as a rule be immoral. But while other things can be, because there are stuff that we can reason our way into understanding that this is always going to be bad, even if it could be good in a couple of instances. Rule utilitarianism versus consequences utilitarianism. Anyways, that's it. We can talk about this later if anybody wants to. But yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And right side, Clack or Glaucoma, whichever wants to go first.
I'll
You got
go.
5 minutes each.
So the internal-external distinction Glock gave you, no one provided an answer. Why, if someone's like alone in the woods, take care of their child, would be any different than pregnancy. We laid out prima facie justification. It didn't seem like there was any good reason to overrule that prima facie justification. The only like valid one Nina gave was if the mother's life is in danger, and it's okay in those cases. I showed they don't really care about consciousness, which they claim to care about, because even if the fetus was conscious, if it doesn't have viability, it doesn't have rights. I mean, it's still permissible to abort them. Sorry. They conceded that giving your baby a bunch of birth defects was morally permissible, and that's a pretty big bullet to bite. It didn't seem like they knew any of the empirics on abortion. I asked them, like, what's the maternal mortality rate? They said crazy things like 30% and 15%, which is just laughable. Are any other like extreme risks to the mother? They weren't able to name them. I was. They had difficulty in understanding hypotheticals, a real difficulty in understanding hypotheticals. They agreed that you could kill comatose infants. They agreed to dueling. They agreed it's okay to kill another person in a complete isolation from society. Overall, they had ridiculous stance. They didn't understand foundationalism or basic epistemology. I think I said enough.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Hang on, let me reset the clock real quick, and go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hopefully I don't just like restate what Julian just said, but I wasn't really listening. I'm sorry, Julian. But yeah, a couple of things. Like Nina asked us the question, why aren't you guys pro-choice? Like, what makes you guys pro-life? And so we explained why we're pro-life. And I also explained that I just haven't heard a good pro-choice argument. Like maybe if I heard a convincing argument, I don't know if something would change. And in this discussion, all I gathered is that if your infant is in a coma, it's okay to stab it to death. If you are in the woods and you can't transfer the obligation, it's okay to kick your infant to the curb. Literally, dueling's fine. Like all these things that Julian named, like this is the convincing argument, right, guys? Like this is the view, the pro-choice view that we're all supposed to hold to be like super convinced by this conversation. It's not convincing. I don't think it's intuitive, but apparently intuition means nothing to the side on the left. I think there was a lack of tracking, by one, member of the team more than the other. But I think there was a lack of tracking with some terms like prima facie or, talking about intuition being like a source of, I guess, justification or a source of like foundationalism. I don't know. Julian kind of explained it, but I think that if you don't hold the view that intuitions give us some degree of justification for the beliefs that we have, then I don't really know what answer you're looking for. So when you ask us why things are wrong and we tell you it's just intuitive, I'm not sure what answer you're looking for. That's not satisfying. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just I didn't hear a convincing argument today. And I think Julian and I at least gave motivation to be pro-life, or at least represented the pro-life movement in a great manner today. So I'm done.
All right, thank you for that. And for those of you that are not aware, here at the Crucible, we do things a little bit differently. Once the closing statements have been finished, we consider the debate to be over, at which point the moderator can interact. We're going to have call-ins. We're going to have super chat, Q&A, all that kind of stuff. I do have a couple of questions. I don't want to take up too much time. Those of you that want to call in, get in the queue now, because I can already tell it's going to fill up. And if you don't get in there early, you might not get in at all. So get in there as soon as you possibly can. I think I want to just satisfy the left side's question here. Like, so Nina, if you say why is abortion wrong, and I say I just classify that as murder, right? Is that an acceptable answer? I consider abortion to be murder.
I would appreciate that. Oh, sorry,
Feedback.
I'm hearing myself. Oh, okay, sorry. I would appreciate you saying that. Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then presumably you also think murder is wrong. So then the question would then be, is abortion in fact murder, right? Right. So I don't know. I think now I'm not trying to like throw shade. I do want to be neutral, but I think part of why we didn't even get to that debate is because the right side kind of was just like, well, it's just intuitively wrong, and then like that opens the door for the other side to just be like, well, I just think it's intuitively right, and it's like, well, how do you even really debate that? So I don't know. And then the other thing is, Cypher, I do kind of want to go at you a little bit with Julian's hypothetical, where you essentially say that you draw the line at viability because the baby or the fetus is wholly dependent on the mother and she has no other option, except abortion up to a certain point. And then they ask you, like, what if a mother's like out in the woods? I used this hypothetical before. Like, there's a home birth out in rural Montana. There's no hospital for 100 miles. She has no access to any medical care, nowhere to take the baby, but it's already been born. So it's still wholly and entirely reliant on the mother.
Sure.
Can the mother then kill the baby?
No. And the reason being is that we can talk about whether or not again, I come back to the consciousness argument because I feel like that's the most pertinent. But if we want to just say it, fuck it. The first breath is when we say, boom, personhood is done. And that's when it becomes immoral to abandon and stuff like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's kind of what what's alluded to in various religions throughout all of time. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last question regarding the consciousness argument. This is one that I believe I'm the only one who's ever really made it, but essentially you're saying you place value on a person once it attains consciousness. At that point, it gets its right to life, its bodily autonomy, etc. Right? But prior to that, you could use it as a football, or you could use it as target practice, as Destiny likes to say, right? Like, is that what you would say, Cypher?
More or less, but
yeah. So then, okay, the question would be, would that also hold true up until the point of death? When that person dies and there's no longer consciousness in that body, can you then do whatever you want with that body?
That's a tough one. I think people have some sort of social responsibility to not do things that are socially impermissible within their society. So, for example, my dad was Catholic. He died last year. I didn't cremate him. Despite the fact that he was dead, and I think that the body is just there. It doesn't matter, whatever. And I had to come up with the money on my own because he didn't have life insurance. I didn't cremate him because I felt a moral and social responsibility to it.
I'm asking from a moral or ethical perspective. Would it be wrong to, say, fondle a corpse?
It wouldn't morally. I don't know. I haven't given that one much thought, so I can't say one way or the other.
Okay. Well,
intuitively, I'll say sure, it's wrong, but like I haven't given it much thought. So
to the other side of the panel, that's permissible, I guess. But that's actually an interesting question, though. That I thought of it myself a while back, and I'm like, if you do value the conscious experience, and this thing doesn't have a conscious experience, I guess there wouldn't be anything wrong with whatever you do to that body. You know what I mean? Assuming you don't hurt another conscious being with it. So I don't know.
I think that's where it comes into play mostly. So intuitively, I say no, we shouldn't do that. But I don't know if that's just because of the culture I grew up in, or that's because of some like divine being blasting that into my head or whatever. So.
Okay, well, that's all I have for my questions, and I'm sure there's going to be more back and forth, I'm sure, when we get to callers and Q&A, but we're going to start with our first caller. Like I said, guys, if you want to get in here, do it quick because the queue is already basically full. So get in here ASAP. First caller, Andrew BPF. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. How are we doing tonight? I'm taking a little bit of executive privilege to be the first caller in line because it's my show, so fuck off. So real quick on the opposite side, I'm looking at Cypher. Cypher, I had just a quick round of questions for you. So do you believe essentially that it's a woman's right to choose under essentially any circumstances that she wants?
I believe that the viability standard was set a good precedent, so not exactly. But because of the fact that we have instances where there needs to be an abortion, then we cannot make it illegal.
Okay, right. So like there's some threshold you would cut it off or something?
Yeah, I think the viability standards was fine.
Okay, gotcha. So let me ask you a question. Pretend for a second that you lived in a fascist society that did not allow for abortions, kind of like how this one's going, right? Kind of like how this one's going.
Sure.
But they opened it up to say you can have abortions only because we've invented a brand new technology which can detect whether or not the fetus is going to become a homosexual. And if we detect that, it's completely up to you, but you can exterminate the fetus. Would you go ahead and say that that's good, that people should be allowed to do that?
Probably not.
Well, why not?
Because
I thought it was up to the mother to whoa, hang on. I thought the mother could choose under any circumstances.
Sure, they can.
Let's let him answer. They can, but
when we're talking about stuff like this, we have to also consider the social ramifications of that. And in such a society, the permissible, only a saying that you can only abort if the child is homo, or let's go the one child policy in China, where they're just aborting girls because that's what they wanted to do because men were more valued. Good on China, I guess. Ugh. But that has social ramifications that precipitate throughout society. So if you're saying that it is morally allowed, and not only is it morally allowed, it is morally allowed and justified and good, which is what this is implicating, to abort only gay children, then that is going to have implications for people that exist today and have consciousness themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that about you could say that about any abortion, right? You could say that about
but this is
well, like right now, a person could choose based on whether or not they didn't want a black baby, right?
But it is not a rule. It is not.
Do you think it's immoral to choose to have an abortion because you don't want to have a black baby? Is that moral to you?
I'm sorry, I did not. It broke up there for a second. Can you repeat that?
Do you think it's moral to choose to have an abortion because you don't want to have a black baby?
Again, this comes into social ramifications that we're talking about. And then, but this also brings up that it's only legally allowed for gay people, or for fetuses.
Yeah, but now I'm opening it up past that. I'm opening it up past that.
I'm saying,
right this second, opening
it past that.
Right this second, do you agree with me that you can terminate? You realize right now you can terminate a pregnancy based on the fact you don't want to have a black baby. Is that good? Is that fine with you? You're good with that?
There is a difference here, because you would
not racist, but go off. I got.
Yeah, that's the thing. What it boils down to is that we cannot. Your first question implicated eugenics, right? And I personally do not believe that eugenics can ever be to be practiced on a more than individualized level and have it be morally justified because of the social implications that creates. So I had somebody in my chat ask about autism.
Why would it be worse? Why would it be worse
because
that you kill based
pressures.
on something outside of a different specific? So it's like, well, why would it matter if you killed based on the fact it was black? You just killed it because you don't want to feed it. Why is that a big deal?
It matters because in your first hypothetical, it was only legally permissible under that narrow circumstance. So that has moral implications for people that have a conscious being.
We're already past that.
Okay, whatever. If they want to abort a child, do it. I don't care.
Okay, so in the open society we have right now, where everybody can get an abortion for basically any reason they want, if we invented the technology which could detect homosexuality right at the site of inception, would it be permissible in your ideal world
up until personhood
for a parent to be able to abort it? Let me finish, Nina.
Okay.
Let me finish. Would it be permissible for you, and I just want this on record, to eliminate the fetus specifically because you don't want to have more homosexuals in the world? Is that fine?
Up until personhood, any abortion is morally fine, and that's how it goes.
So then the answer is yes.
Sure.
Okay, got it. Thank you. You didn't have to tap dance around it. And then over on the other side of the panel, I just wanted to ask you guys a really quick question I was wondering about, which is, why would you come into an argument or a debate saying I'm against abortion because it seems like it's wrong? Like that was your argument.
You're muted.
Mike's muted.
Sorry. I mean, for the sake of time, I was just bottoming out to the question. Like where do you think the question's going to lead to? Like, if we just go, oh, I just really like fetuses. Like, right. It's just, I don't like when fetuses die. I don't like when parents don't have an obligation to their children. Like, all of that still is going to bottom out to the fact that we just have some intuition about it. Like, that's essentially what we're describing.
Yeah, but that's a super weak argument because they just say it seems like it's not the case.
So,
well, I mean,
what do you think? Sorry, what do you think that these bottom out to? Like, if I ask
I literally just told you what they bottom out to. They bottom out to, no, it seems like that's not the case. And you say, no, it seems like it is.
I keep asking why. Do you have an answer for every single time I ask why?
It would be from their perspective intuitive, just like yours.
Okay, so just because they can also use intuition as a source of justification doesn't mean that it's not a source of justification.
Wait, yeah, but it's a useless one. You can't debate about it.
Wait. If you're going to argue over this, though, you're essentially saying it's axiomatic. You're saying that it's axiomatic and it's self-obvious and that these are the first impressions of people, but they're not. And I mean, you got to bite that bullet, right? It's not the first impression of people that abortion is wrong.
Well, no one said it was. We're trying to draw things that people commonly agree upon.
Well, what do you think
like
prima facie
suicide,
means?
We
What do you
didn't
think?
say-
euthanasia,
We said
death,
it's wrong to
murder.
kill someone and deprive them of a future. Like that's prima facie wrong. We didn't necessitate abortion in the first premise.
Okay, well that's the only argument that I heard out of you. I thought your internal critique was good, but if they were better at an internal critique, they could have turned it right around on you.
Yeah,
Anyways, that's all I had.
I just want to
Okay,
mention that
thank you
this
for
is
calling
noted as the strongest argument in the pro-choice. I mean, the pro-choice, pro-life literature.
So what if they asked you, why does it seem like it's the case? Why does it seem like it's intuitive that abortion's wrong? Wouldn't they do that?
I wouldn't know what the question's asking.
Yeah, intuitions are just not inferentially justified. So
Right, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
You
The
didn't
fact that
say
you guys,
anything. You just say anything if that's the case. This is why it's so ridiculous.
I actually agree with Nina here. I actually agree that if you can just say like, I just intuit.
I intuitively think abortion's good.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you could say that. I don't think you know what intuition is, so you can babble the words. Unless you want to have a discussion about intuitionism, you can tell me what you think of intuition is.
yeah, what is intuitions? What are they?
Let's go into that.
What's
What
an
do you think it is?
intuition? Sorry, what's an intuition?
I'm asking you.
No, we're not doing that. I asked
You
you.
know what an intuition is. We're
Wait, I
asking
can't
you.
All right,
questions
both
now?
sides. Okay,
Right.
hang on. Quick sidebar. Both sides define what intuition is. Nina, go first. Other side,
Great.
give your definition before you critique anything. Go ahead. Nina.
I don't have the exact definition in front of me, of course, but what I would assume intuition is just based off of like feels before reals type of thing. I guess to be like very brief about it.
I don't have no clue what that
Okay.
meant. Feels before reals.
Well, okay, what
That
do you
your
think?
feelings are what you decide things off instead of reality.
Wait.
Reality.
What do you guys think intuition is?
Me and Julian may define it differently, but maybe like an intellectual seeming or just reflecting on like some proposition and having some initial reaction. Like you can define it a little differently. You could just say it's a type of
You
seeming.
can't say that you've
I'd
thought
say
about
it's a
it.
mental state where something seems to be the case,
Wait,
and it's.
what do you mean you
formed
can't
up.
say that you thought about
If
it?
it's intuitive, you
Because
don't think about it.
intuitive means that intuition comes from intuit, right? And intuit means you just kind of realize that it exists. There
I'm not
can be
defining
any,
intuition that way. I'm not defining intuition that way.
but that's
I
what
said
intuition
Alright,
there's
means.
an intellectual
I'm
seeming
sorry,
that
guys.
reflects
This
a proposition.
is retarded. All right, we're moving
But
on.
that's fine. We
All
can
right.
move on.
Next caller, Big Haas. Welcome. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, we sound fantastic.
Splendid. All right, Cypher, my question is for you. I had a problem with how your like consciousness argument.
Okay.
I it's not like I couldn't understand it. I mean, like you explained it well enough, I guess. I say I guess because I'm stupid, but like the argument is like. Did you make like the point that like it's okay to like abort fetuses, but like it's not it's not okay to like abort like a late term abortion with like a newborn infant or a toddler or
Yes,
something like this?
To
It's
me,
like if
Yes.
your argument hinges upon like consciousness, like I don't understand why you couldn't just like abort like a 25-year-old a 24-year-old if
Well-
like the brain doesn't even fully develop until like you're 25. Like
yeah,
what
but
is consciousness?
consciousness is physically speaking is various brain structures, and I can't list them all, so I'm sorry about that. I just don't have every single fucking thing in front of me. There's a bunch of different things, but there's synapses, there's brain development with the folds in the brain. Just because you do not have the capacity to fully understand and reason everything fully out until the age of 25 doesn't mean you don't have a consciousness, doesn't mean you don't have a personality, doesn't mean that you don't have feelings, emotions, yada yada yada, right?
All right.
So-
Well, if it's something that we don't understand, and possibly maybe like one of these things can err to like, okay, maybe this is consciousness. Why isn't it like the little flesh bud in the mother's womb? Why isn't that like
There isn't the physical
consciousness?
brain development that exists there that even approximates whatever what everything is that causes a personality to even develop. I can't, like I said, I can't list these off because I read it like super quick a couple of times, like years ago or whatever, and that was like, oh, okay, that's why the valuability standard was created in the way that it was. Generally speaking, the brain has this level of development for the capacity for the actual things that we are talking about that I say that makes up personhood between 20 and 27 weeks. That's when it starts. So around the 24-week mark seems to be a good way to split the difference.
Just,
Did you have a follow-up there, caller?
I have trouble with it.
It's complicated.
Or did you have a follow-up question, or is that it?
It's what grounds you're since the topic was on the ethics of abortion, what is the ethic? Because you said like during the debate too that ethics is like conjoined, really strongly linked with law or something like that, but I think that's wrong, because you can totally have ethic, a law system within the government and everything like that, but
Sure.
you could have the ethics of the people or whatever else like that are
Can I ask you, shouldn't laws be ethical?
opposite. What was that?
Shouldn't laws be ethical? Like,
Can laws be
if we're based
ethical?
off of like general morality, like if we're talking about like them being good, right, or good or bad or whatever, like wouldn't you want your laws to be ethical?
Yeah, laws can be ethical, sure, but I mean, like they it's not like
Should
it's
they
like
be?
oh, should they?
Huh?
Maybe. Yeah, they should. Yeah, they should.
Okay.
At least a little bit.
So having an argument about how legal things should be, I think, is important to have like an ethic conversation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else there, Big
Appreciate
Hoss?
No, my brain's toasting up, so I guess I should go.
Can I put
All right,
one thing
thank
real
you for
quick?
the call.
Just you can leave Big Haas, so you can get chill.
Hey, thanks
No,
for
I'm
the call.
staying. What is it, Cypher?
Yeah. Thank you for the call, Big Hoss. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
So
Cypher.
just Big Haas, I just recommend you reading the brain development of a fetus from week or day 1 all the way to birth, and then maybe that'll help you better understand where I'm coming from for it. That's it.
And next caller we got in line here is Koala. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hello.
Hello. My question's for Cypher and Nina. So repeatedly throughout the debate, you guys, your position is just like poorly constructed. Like you guys go between viability and consciousness multiple times when establishing personhood. So I'm just wondering, like, did you guys end up deciding like midway through the debate which like position you wanted to take?
I think what happened with that is we were trying to engage with obviously the opposition, and I think he was taking a little bit of a really good faith position where he's trying to like go with what he thinks. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that we just have a philosophical difference, because I've talked to Cypher before about this, and it's just like, yeah, we're a little bit different in our opinions on certain things. And I think that generally, I don't think it really matters. I think that at the end of the day, the way that he was trying to portray his value was the exact same as mine. Generally, it was just maybe we were trying to understand their positions, which are, as we learned, very up in the air. So we were just trying to address their positions in like different ways. So I think that we were aligned, of course, through the entire thing. It was the way that we were trying to address the positions of our opposition.
So Koala, I think what the issue is that I also weigh bodily autonomy in this discussion. And when we talk about viability here and consciousness, it is almost a one-to-one measure for me. So when I say that the 24-week mark is a good standard for viability and consciousness, it is because of the brain development. I don't see these two things as being necessarily incongruent. Does that make sense?
No, because first of all, Nina, clearly you're just like indisputably wrong on that case, because if you guys were morally aligned, you guys would not have differences. The opposing
morally
side
aligned? No, we're not. I don't think we're morally aligned. It's that we're
you just said you were
ideologically aligned.
No, you
Yeah,
guys
ideologically aligned. Yeah.
You guys are not aligned. They assign
Morally or
personhood.
ideologically, which one?
Ideologically, morally, either way, you guys don't align at all.
Those are
Hold
two
on.
different things.
Can I ask Nina, do you agree with the viability standard?
Yeah, I think there's a reason for that. obviously being the standard, like somebody who's done the science, you know, I'm not a fucking expert, so I think it's like we're talking about like the Roe like, standard of viability, right?
Yeah, that's what I refer to.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Okay. So the opposing side, they assign personhood based on like I guess if you have like potential for like a future or whatever. You guys assign it based on viability or consciousness. That's clearly the difference that there is.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. That's the primary difference between the two.
Okay, so you guys are
two
not
sides.
aligned. But you guys aren't aligned.
No, she took that to mean that her and I aren't aligned. You were saying we were aligned.
Okay,
that was the
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
I took it the same way, Qualo.
I guess
sorry about that.
me and you, Qualo, are not aligned.
Okay. So the cipher. Sorry, I didn't really. Sorry, I kind of forgot what you said. So
No, you're fine.
Regarding viability and consciousness, which one do you did you say they're like aligned? Do you think they're the same?
Yeah, they're essentially one-to-one because of brain development. Brain development starts like not right away. It happens after cells divide, blah, 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 right? I don't have the exact thing in front of me. I'm not like a student of this as much as like a person that is a doctor is and can tell you everything because that's their day job, right? So I can't go about it like that, right? But I can tell you that generally speaking, and I say generally because there are instances where development happens differently. We know this. That's not just intuitive. We see it every fucking day, where that could be not aligned. And that's why I say it's generally one-to-one aligned. So at 24 weeks, you have the capacity, you have the ability for consciousness, you have consciousness, you're developed a person, you have the brain structures for personality, feelings, emotions, moral weight can be given to a degree on this. All those things exist at the 24-week mark.
Okay, yeah, so I disagree with that entirely, because it's like repeatedly, like I don't know where you substantiate that like they're like aligned in any way, because a lot of people like biologists,
for me they're aligned.
For you, so it's like subjective. Where do you base that substantiation off of that?
We're talking about morals, of course it's all subjective.
I based it off of the biology stuff that I just listed off, which is the 24 weeks have the brain development that gives these things the possibility of happening and happening.
What do you base that off of? Like, where did you get that? Like, what research?
I did a ton of research. I can't point you to it. I don't have a running list of everything I've ever read throughout all of time. Should I start keeping that?
Yes, because you go into a debate without any substantiation for your premises, and you just accept the other side to like take that. Like, I just don't. Why would you go into a debate without substantiation?
I've substantiated it. I don't have.
No, not at all. Like, whenever I ask, like, why is it true? You just say, "Oh, I did my research," and I'm just supposed to believe you. Like, no.
I mean, you can go look up the brain development stuff just like anybody else. The entire
debate
wasn't about
the science or the morals? Because the debate was about, like, I guess, the morals, which I think that obviously we can use resources to help us, but like what is the issue that you're having here that you want like a resource on?
Okay, so the issue that I'm having is this, like, with this premise that like consciousness and that like
I actually do have an article for you.
Okay, if you want to send that to me, go ahead. But like the point that I'm making is that you went into this debate without substantiation for that, and it's just like it just, to me, whenever I hear that, it just gives me the idea that you're bad faith because you just don't have you don't have your values aligned and you can't substantiate it. That's just to me what it seems.
Well,
like,
Caller, can I ask you what are you asking for? What do you want him to do that he's not doing?
He wants me to list off my sources for this, and I don't have them.
I've done my own independent research, and I can tell you exactly like where these stuff begins. Like I would say, like consciousness begins from like 20 to 24, and viability. Yeah.
No,
I'm not saying this is a source. It's a source.
20 to 24. Right. So wait, we don't actually disagree, Cola. I don't understand.
Okay, well, anyways, I made my point that like you went into this like without substantiation for your premise, which is bad faith.
Okay, but that's not bad faith though. Bad faith would be
misinterpreting our side.
At all. We do have to move on. I don't know if I would consider that bad faith, but I understand.
I definitely would.
I understand the objection. Is there any last thing you want to follow up on?
Yeah, I just have.
Would you like to yell at the right side for anything?
Well, Glaucoma, she was quite rude to me yesterday, but apart from that, I just have one more thing for the pro-choice side. So you apply rights based on like consciousness. So like in a hypothetical where like let's say somebody could like insert like a serum into a fetus and it would develop without consciousness, and you could harvest that body for organs and stuff like that, you like would see that as totally acceptable because it never like presumes consciousness.
I mean, we do that with dead bodies all the time.
Yeah, I'm confused. So are you saying that they developed a serum that that prevents consciousness from ever existing, clears it out? I don't understand what.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like they create a serum so like this developing fetus never presumes consciousness, and then they mutilate this human life and harvest.
I mean,
it.
at that point, it's not a person.
So you're gonna kill somebody at that point.
So you see that as like totally fine. Like you just like think you.
Well,
can
it's not a person. I mean, whether or not it's totally fine, we have to again. This is the problem with these debates, because I feel like nobody really tries to take into account the social ramifications for any of the things that we're talking about. They want to all make it an individualized case. If we have a social system that creates a serum, right? If we have a serum that exists and then we permissibly allow it for socialization, what does that say about living, breathing, conscious humans at the same time, right? What does that say about it? And I see Clack kind of nodding his head or something. I don't know if if I saw it out of the corner of my head. But like, I think those things need to be taken into account. Like, it's not just it has to be taken into account.
All right. Hey, I'm sorry. We do have to move on. Thank you for the call in, though, Koala. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
And next one here, we got Leftist Dropout. Go ahead.
Hello. Okay. So I have kind of like one question, but it's kind of like a two-parter. So Cypher, earlier you said because there can be justification for abortion, we must allow all of it. But this not only like shows that there's a contradiction in your. Yeah, you actually did, because they were saying that there can be justifications for like medical stuff and removing dead fetuses. So then you said we must allow all abortions because of those things.
I didn't say that, because I have the viability argument where it becomes.
No. I get what you're saying. You're saying that like on the legal grounds, right?
Yeah, like you literally
you're saying
you
legally,
did say that before in the debate. Yeah,
not like elective, just like legally, we should be able to like have.
Yeah, well, there were a couple things, because you were talking about like how C-sections could be abortions. There were like other things you tried to get. I think Glock in, because they were talking about how they give like medical exceptions or something. And then you were talking about how if they give any justification for it, then we should just allow all of it. You basically said, "Oh, you're pro-choice now." If you're gonna say you didn't say that, then I can just move on to a different question I had.
No, I think I just misunderstood your question initially. So or maybe there's a misunderstanding here. So let me just restate my position, if that's permissible.
Sure, yeah.
I believe that legally speaking, we cannot legally make all abortions disallowed, all of them, because there are instances where even the pro-life, the anti-abortion side, whatever you want to call them, states that there is moral justification for the termination of a fetus or the vacating a dead fetus out of a woman's body. Legally speaking, both of those procedures are abortions.
Right.
So we can't, as a rule, make abortion illegal. Didn't say that it was
I wasn't
all
under
illegal.
the impression that either of the two pro-lifers thought that we were going to ban every single abortion ever. I don't know if that was ever their stance, but okay, that's fine. It could have just been a miscommunication. So I guess I'll just go to my viability question. You keep mentioning that viability has something to do with sentience. Now, I'm not sure if you're saying that they occur around the same time, or if you're saying that viability, like the Roe decision, was based on the fact that there is like some level of brain development there. Because if that's like your actual stance, that is completely incorrect. Viability, the reason that it's even changing so much and now it's considered like 21 weeks is because the fetus has a 50-50 chance of survival outside of the womb. It has nothing to do with sentience. I don't know why you kept saying that. And Roe was not decided on the brain development of the child. That was just kind of crazy. And I was wondering if you want to clarify that.
So the viability standard at the time that it was written did take into account these things that I listed. Whether or not you want to compete that to be the case, that's fine. But at the same time, a 50% chance of living isn't very much of a chance. It's a coin flip, right? And then, then even with the fact that we can say it's viable 50% of this chance at the time, we have to take into account all sorts of other things. So if a fetus is delivered at 21 weeks, what is that going to happen to that fetus developmentally because of all all the stuff that they have to go through in the NICU. Like,
yeah, I'm not. I don't have like a. I think the viability standard is probably one of the worst pro-choice arguments ever to exist. Sure. So I'm not like trying to defend that stance at all. I was just saying that like you kept insinuating that like viability and sentience are at least closely linked, and that the Roe decision was based on sentience, or like somewhat based on sentience. Yeah, and that's Roe. Just like kind of crazy to me. But yeah, the 50-50 chance of survival, that's honestly a big reason why viability is an awful argument. But then you also said that babies are not, or that humans are not persons until their first breath. I don't know if that was a troll or not. So rip every baby born in a bathtub, I guess.
It was to get off the point. There's several religious scholarships out there of various different religions where they said that was basically the case of when a soul enters the body is one of the
that is not
things.
True.
So.
But okay.
What do you mean it's not true? That's definitely in several religions. They talk about it at length. They talked about in Christianity. It talks about in Judaism. They're talked about in Hinduism.
Talk about it in Christianity at all. I hate when pro-choicers.
No, that's a misreading of the.
Yeah, it literally says.
A misreading of the religious text.
Well, wait, no, it literally doesn't even say that life begins at first breath. It literally just says that God created Adam.
In the Jewish laws, it says
that's not what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about Genesis.
Yeah, we don't have to go
keep in mind, Adam wasn't born.
Yeah, so that's just like crazy, and I feel like pro-choicers need to stop bringing that up. The last thing, can you define like sentience and consciousness, because we never got a definition. I don't even know what you mean. Like a concrete definition.
I gave a list of things
You give a list that's very like broad. It's very
quality.
Like,
it is going to be broad.
Well, no, like when I say sentience, I'm normally just like referring to subjective experience. But you seem to think that there has to be like some
there has to be a level of brain development. There has to be.
Like right, but they don't have to be experiencing that, right?
I'm sorry,
they don't
say
have
that
to
again?
be. They don't have to actually be currently actualizing this ability, right? So it's not necessarily about currently having subjective experience or anything like that. It's just about this vague kind of having enough folds in your brain thing.
Yeah, that's literally the part where it comes into existence. I don't know why you're scoffing. I don't understand why you find this to be ridiculous.
It just seems like really weird, and I've never heard that definition of consciousness before. But that's all I have. I don't want to take too much more of your
if you're going to
time,
talk about viability when abortion should be illegal, and if you think that abortion at a certain point should be illegal, should be considered unethical, then you have to take a stance where that is, and that's where I took my stance to. It's the
I'm just
capacity.
Like it's confusing when they don't, because you said that like they don't have to be like currently experiencing anything. They just have to have like the parts necessary. It just seems pretty weird.
No, I was saying they're focusing. The glaucoma was focusing on like brain waves and brain synapses firing off. That's just electrical impulses. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is any possibility for them to have consciousness, feelings, emotions, the ability to reason, etc., etc., etc. That requires a certain level of brain development, and once that certain level of brain development exists, then there is the ability to be a person.
Yeah, okay, so they just have to be able to possibly experience something, but they don't have to actually experience it.
I mean, can you prove that they're actually experiencing? Can you prove that I'm existing right now? Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, this doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. You can drag me out. I'm good now.
Bye,
Right, thank you for the call in. We appreciate
Bye,
it.
Glock. I love you.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And next caller, chat, brace yourselves. This is going to be a fun one. We've got Peacecraft.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The in-house Crucible call-in team.
No, I find myself agreeing with the left side. It's all right. Just turn your shit down. I find myself agreeing with the left side of the screen for the first time in a long time. If we can fucking kill people based on folds of their brain, fucking Cypher and Neenia would have been taken out fucking decades ago.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what you're talking about.
Cypher, quick question for you, buddy. In a hypothetical, in a hypothetical world that's fast approaching, given technological advancement, where we have biological wombs able to take over the natal process from first cell division, do you then make abortion illegal?
There could be a moral justification to make abortion illegal at that point if you can not put the woman through some sort of extreme amount of like distress or force it upon them.
Wait, but that's what he's saying, right? Or did I misunderstand
Neenia,
the question?
same question.
Wait, is that what the question is?
With the advancement of technology, which seems to reduce the time frame needed in the mother's body, assuming that track record keeps going.
Oh, I thought you were going to.
I know. If we have a biological womb that can take over from the instant the sperm hits the egg, do you then outlaw or ban abortion?
So it's not in a woman's body, so to say.
I'm saying this fish tank of bullshit can take over for the mother.
Yeah,
the instant the sperm hits the egg. Do you then ban abortion?
That's an interesting question. I would say, what is abortion in the context of what we're talking about? Like, if you like, it's in a fish tank and we walk away and like the power goes out and it dies, like, is that an abortion, or like is it just
I knew I shouldn't have asked you a question with more than 2 sentences. Cypher,
because I want follow-up questions.
Cypher, over the course of this debate, you have hinged your argument on sentience.
Wait.
Neena, is your name Cypher? Look down on the left. It says your fucking name in case you got fucking confused.
I just wanted to ask
one day, don't be a trolling fucking asshole and just
Cypher,
ask your questions.
I don't know if I dislike you more because you're gay, Neena and Glock because they're women, Clack because he's wearing a tie, or Zen because he's short. Shut the fuck up.
Straight.
Cypher, over the course of this debate, you have shifted your threshold criteria several times up until first breath outside of the
that was a troll to get off the subject, dude. Come on, you fucking should understand this stuff.
If I grant, you bit the bullet with Andrew asking you if one could abort a black baby in the current paradigm in which we inhabit, to which you said yes.
Yeah.
If so, it seems your threshold principle is greater than 24 weeks if a woman can abort a black child for any reason at any time.
No, I didn't. You keep saying any reason, any time. That's a complete misrepresentation of my argument. I expect better of you. My viability standard was 24 weeks due to the sentience example. The reason I said the troll bit about the first breath is because several religions throughout the entire fucking world have that as a thing, and I wanted to get off the subject. So if we wanted to say have that as sentience, then we could say, okay, fine, we just do it that way to get off the fucking subject.
All right, so can a woman get an abortion at 25 weeks?
A woman can get an abortion at 25 weeks under the previous Roe standard for certain reasons. And that's why we had that elite. That's why we had it legal. It was
26.
illegal. It was illegal.
I'm going to walk you forward. 26.
He's just going to give you the same answer.
I'm giving you the same answer. We had the viability standard because we cross-weighed the rights of the mother with the rights of the fetus. Okay,
right,
or the child.
Neena,
we already
can
had
a woman
this.
get an abortion at any time for any reason?
Not at any time.
So you would disallow late-term abortions?
If we're just talking about like for medical necessity, then sure. But I'm not saying like any time, like for any reason. Those are two different answers.
We're not the extreme abortion at any time for any reason.
We're not like you can like give birth to something and just like murder it. Like people like I don't think anyone would agree with that. But I think like
we're not.
You have to understand. Like,
she's saying no. She's saying no. There's a cutoff.
All right, Clack and Glock. There is a condition in the human form called Harlequin.
The same question?
No, I'm done with.
No, he's moving on. He's moving on.
Clack and Glock. There is a condition in the human form called Harlequin ichthyosis. I have only ever found one person who has survived it, but other than that, throughout human history, a child is born inside out. They scream for 45 minutes, knowing only pain, and then die. Would you allow abortion in this case?
Yeah, I probably would allow abortion in this case. When we're making the statement that having a future like ours provides prima facie justification against killing the fetus, that fetus is not going to seem to have a future like mine. If my future just consisted of like torture for the rest of my life, then I probably wouldn't want to live either.
Neena's doing just fine, homie, so you're going to have to find a better justification.
Okay, but what if you have Down syndrome? Hang on, what if you?
Oh, I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal, Zen.
Not you. To Clack, and I guess I don't know what Glock's position.
Oh
is.
yeah, man. I will jerk off tarts.
Which with Down syndrome or some other like severe deficiency, like you would say that's okay too, because it's not a future like ours.
Down syndrome, like I don't think aborting someone with Down syndrome is okay. I think generally. We're going to consider people with Down syndrome their future to be similarly close to ours, so it's wrong to kill them.
Yeah, but that just sounds arbitrary. It's like there's going to be some point where you're like, this doesn't seem like a future like ours, and this does seem like a future like ours, but the delineation is going to be completely arbitrary.
Yeah, we could literally use the future like ours argument to justify all manner of atrocities of ethics and
what about
eugenics, etc.
Somebody who's, couldn't you say somebody who's born as a crack baby is not going to have a future like ours because they're going to be born addicted to crack? Could you abort a crack baby?
So when we're talking about future like ours, it's going to be a sufficient condition. So it's not a necessary on having value. It's sufficient.
Who decides that?
I don't know what that means at all.
So it just means that all we're saying is people with a future like ours have this like moral value. Not that people without a future like ours don't have this moral.
What does that mean?
It means
still don't know what that means.
It means that like, so if you're saying, oh, someone doesn't have a future like ours, let's say, maybe if I just consider Down syndrome baby not to have a future like ours, does that mean it's okay to kill the Down syndrome baby? The answer would be no. FLO is silent on that question, since FLO is merely a sufficient condition for why it's wrong to kill someone, not a necessary condition.
So then why does that change with Harlequin? Is it ichthyosis or ichthyosis?
Well, when he described the disorder to me, it didn't seem like they had a close enough future like ours. Or you can even say that it doesn't meet the conditionals, but it's just prima facie justification. And the pain.
No, I've told you I've told you that there is a medically recognized survivor who went on to have a life, have children, even get married.
Have children without pain?
Correct. This person survived it.
Well, in their case, they would have a future like ours.
Right. So then simply having Harlequin ichthyosis would not then, forego their moral consideration and say they don't have a future like ours. Right.
Well, it depends on the stance. Like there can be, for example, if you're on the autism spectrum, there can be like severity of autism. I'm sure there can be severity of the disease you're mentioning. So in this particular case where someone lived, yeah, they had a future like ours. In the other cases where they probably don't live, they might have not had a future like ours, but it's going to be on a case by case basis.
Oh, right. One last question for Cypher. One last question for Cypher. One, I thought your death row analogy it's first of all, it's just disanalogous. Like mainly in these moral intuitions, what we're trying to get to is the concept of innocence. I'm pretty sure you would say if I shot a pregnant woman, I would be committing double homicide. Morally, ethically, and legally, we already continue to do so. I don't believe if I shoot a pregnant woman at 23 weeks, have I not committed double homicide?
I mean, that's for violability. Still, illegally, you would be under some states. Some states do not recognize.
Morally or ethically, Cypher, would you charge me with double homicide?
Probably not, to be honest with you. I'm trying to be as consistent as possible, so thanks.
All right, well, fair enough. So, last question, Cypher. If you value and capacity, do you extend this into veganism? We have
no, because I'm a speciesist. Next question.
Why did you come to that if you didn't? How did you come to that if you didn't intuit it?
The reason I'm a speciesist is because the brain development of the human race required meat to get to the point that it's at that we all exist on. So there you go. It is a necessary condition for the human race as it exists to exist.
All right, fair enough. All right, Zen, boot me.
All right, thank you for the call in. Be scrapped. It was fun as always. And just to be clear, the mortality rate for Harlequin ichthyosis, anybody can look this up. It ranges from like 40 to 80%. So 80 would be extremely high, but there's still a 20% survival rate in worst case. So I don't see any way you could use that to justify abortion just because you have this condition. That's ridiculous. Just to be clear on that.
Is it incredibly painful?
I'm sure it is, but that doesn't mean that somebody ought to die because they're in pain. Next caller here. I'm going to try to power through these. Edith Puthy, please make it quick. I'm kind of running out of time. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the call in. But
Edith.
Hi. So I just had a question for plaque and glaucoma. So I wanted to know. Dang. I forgot the question. Never mind.
Okay, you're gone then. Sorry about your luck.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Zensil Sharpen. Welcome.
Hey,
What's good? How's it going? I've got questions mostly directed at you.
I don't know how that worm got in here.
No!
Stop! Come on, that's not fair. They're probably going to ask questions for the right. Come on. There's no.
I don't know how a worm got into the into the call-in.
Wait,
line.
why is Synth banned?
Synth is not asking questions to us.
He's a worm. Well, okay, so our policy here is no synthing and no spurging. Synth
no
does
synthing?
one of those two, so yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's it for our callers. We're gonna go to super chats now. No, seriously, worms and spurgs and synth.
I don't know what that means, but I'll just talk to you afterwards.
I don't really get it either.
So first super chat, we're gonna start with the donos here. Evelyn for $15 says Nina and Cypher need to learn how to clarify their stances, define their terms, and justify their positions. It's insane, and they're floundering so bad. You guys want to respond
we
to that?
need to clarify our
I don't know
stances.
when that super chat donation came in.
It was
or
early
what
on.
point.
It was over an hour ago.
Okay, well then I
Fair
would
enough.
assume that by the time we got this question asked, that they had been sufficiently explained.
I agree.
Next one here on Dono Chat, Strauss1414 says CDC stat 1 in 5 babies were aborted in 2020. Dying in Russian roulette is 1 in 6. How do the lefties feel about the fact that the policies they advocate for are holding a 5-round revolver to every pregnant woman in America's belly?
I don't consider fetuses to be persons, and that's my stance, so it doesn't matter.
Nina, do you have a response?
I mean, they're not people; they're just clumps of cells and shit. Like, it's silly to me.
So, yeah. Next one here. This one's not really related to the debate, but Strauss1414 says, Crucible team, get your devs to use HTML's text area max length to attribute to Dono Chat. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He wants us to extend out the max characters on.
All right, Clack, that's on you.
We'll work on it, but don't tell us how to run our fucking site. So, but thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. We read them all, so we're gonna read that one. Next one here, we're gonna go to the YouTube super chats. Chandler for $5 says, W Glock, W being pretty pro-life gang. We only tolerate simping if you pay for it. So thank you for the super chat.
Love you, Chandler.
Risky Dave, $10 says absolutely nothing. Neon War, 10 pounds says absolutely nothing. And
Nice.
Evan 513, $10 says absolutely nothing. Our favorite kinds of super chats. Thank you guys so much for those.
10
Just
pounds,
like
like
an
14
unborn
bucks.
baby.
Chandler for $2 says no crumbs left for Glock to eat. Goddamn. Yeah, okay. Again, you can simp if you pay for it, but otherwise you get fucking banned. Okay. Sumeria Anna for £2 says kudos Zen for this outstanding pairing. Good fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was. I said this in chat. I've never had to interject to moderate a debate more than I did tonight. So I don't know if that's a good thing or
you're usually
not.
not involved. Nice to hear you.
Well, there was a lot of moments where moderation was necessary. That's all. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. Elijah Borges, I don't know. For $20 in Monopoly money says, why can mothers choose for the father that he must commit to a family he does not want? If you claim to be pro-choice, men must have their choice to be free of responsibility within the same time frame abortions are permitted.
I believe that there can be a moral justification even on a social level for the ability to financially, quote unquote, abort a child, but we need a better system in place for that, which requires more socialism, which you probably don't agree with. So there you go.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I've actually had that conversation. I assume that's obviously to the left of here, and I agree with the same thing. I do think that it's unfair in a lot of ways. But I think that just the way that the structure is based off right now is unfortunate, but we could absolutely fix it with more socialism. Socialized programs.
And next one here, we got Slevin Kalevra for $2 says, you can win the lottery 133 million times to being born once. I think that's toward the left side.
I don't understand.
He's saying that you have a better, I guess, if you have the the billion-year-old.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know how to respond to that.
I wouldn't either, to be honest.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Okay. Slevin Kalevra for $5 says, imagine winning a timed race of 250 million participants, getting to the finish, then instead of a reward, you're ripped apart because girl boss.
Dude, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
like
That's the
even
point.
like in reality, that happens all the time.
Yeah, that's the,
You
that's
understand
the
how the
super
world
chatter's
works?
point, Nina. That's the point of the super chat.
Well, no, I think they're trying to make a metaphor with like their sperm like hitting the egg or whatever, and then like just taking an L. Like, yeah, we all take L's. Like, get over it.
Yeah, this
Because girl boss, right? Girl boss.
This proposes that a fetus has a right to exist. So.
Okay, the rights conversation is interesting. We don't have time to go into it right now, but Cypher, I think I would like to, and I think people in the chat would also like to see you back debating something along those lines. Christopher Shame becomes a channel member. Thank you so much for that. Reminder, that's the best way to support us, guys. Become a channel member. You get all the members only emojis. You get to throw tomato soup cans, like I said. You get there's a ton of members only content on the channel now. I think it's more on the other channel, but we're gonna get it over to this channel, because we had the strikes and all that. We're just coming off of that. But become a channel member, gift those memberships if you're already a channel member. That's the best way to support us and keep the channel going. It's been a lot of work to keep it up through all this, but it's only possible because you guys support us so much. So thank you for that. Wicked Wally for $5. If everyone on this panel were oranges, this show would be called the Juiceable. Ban that fucker. Ban that fucker right now. He's not allowed in our fucking chat anymore. Ban this fucking asshole. Where's he at? I'll take care of it. I think only I can do it because he's a mod, but we need to ban this fucker. He's never allowed to chat or super chat again.
Ever. My chat.
Terrible. PK for $15, I think in Australian. Personhood begins at conception, as each embryo has potential to become a conscious being. The term person is metaphysical, not tied solely to physical brain functions. Hope y'all think about it.
Yeah.
Is a child an adult because they have the potential of being an adult?
I don't know, Nina. You can't ask a super chatter.
I'm asking okay, I was sorry.
Okay, well they're not going to answer because it's a super chat.
Well, maybe they'll donate more to answer it.
Yeah, I don't care about potential too much. That doesn't enter my axiom all that much.
I agree with that as well.
Okay, Nico Pluto for $2, longtime supporter. He says, "Bravo, thank you for that." Nico Pluto, longtime viewer, longtime supporter. He's been around longer than I have, so that's how you know he's been here a while. Alan Wiggs for £5 says, "No question from me, just sending some love from London and saying the Crucible is the greatest YouTube channel ever. Thank you so much." I agree with that. Everyone agrees with that. If you don't, you're banned. So we're gonna keep it up. We're gonna take care of all the haters, all the naysayers. We are the best channel on YouTube. I agree, and we're gonna keep growing too. FB for $2 says Cypher takes a big L. You want to respond to that, Cypher?
Without more to know why he says that, I can't really. So, I guess.
Okay, and last one here on YouTube, another Landon BS for $2. W Glock, W being pretty, W pro. Okay, just ban this guy too. No, I'm just kidding. Don't ban him. He paid for it. We typically will ban the simps, but he paid for it, so it is what it is. And that is it for super chats, I think. Yep, that's all we got. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody who tuned in the audience. Thank you to everybody who called in, sent your super chats, all that stuff. We appreciate it very much. Before we go, everybody's going to get one more chance to shout themselves out. We'll start with Cypher. Shout yourself out. Tell everybody where they can find you. Yeah, thank you again, Zen, for having me on the Crucible. I would like to come back, so if you'd like to have me, just hit me up on Twitter like you did last time. Everybody, my name is Cypher. I stream under the moniker of Crowdsourced Politics. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube. I cover all things politics. We have several different podcasts, so we also post podcast episodes to wherever you get podcast streams, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Talk about a variety of different things. So if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to check out the news roundup every Thursday, unless stated otherwise, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, thank you all. All right, Nina, go ahead, shout yourself out one more time.
Always a pleasure to see you, Zen, and of course our good friends here, Cypher, Clack, and Glock. It was really funny. There was a joke in my chat of like Clack and Glock is a really funny name for like a show that you guys should like do together. So I think that would be very funny. Yeah, it's a good name, right? But yeah, I find me on twitch.tv/Neenia. I stream every day. I think I'm at 148 days in a row right now. We do debates, we do politics, we do news, we do all of that. So if you want to Neina, and I hope to do another debate with you guys soon.
All right, and Glock, go ahead and shout yourself out one more time. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay. You can find me on TikTok. That's where I originated from, unfortunately. But if you go to my TikTok, it's glaucoma with 3 A's. My Discord is in my bio, so you can join our server there. And obviously, thank you, Zen, for hosting this. And then thank you to our opponents.
All right, and last but not least, Clack Conservative. Shout yourself out. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm Clack Conservative, which is just Black Conservative with the C and the B flipped. You can find me on TikTok under the name Clack Conservative. Again, I discuss normative ethics and some mathematics. You should follow me.
All right, well, that'll do it. Thank you again, everybody, for being here, and everybody in the audience for watching. I hope you enjoyed it like I did. I know I did. It was interesting. It was fun. It was very contentious at times, but that's what debates are. But that'll wrap it up for tonight. From all of us here at the Crucible to all of you in Crucible Land, have a wonderful night.
All right. So if you're still watching me, thank y'all for it. Appreciate it. Let me mute this really quick while it's still going. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining in on this debate that I just had with Neenia against Glaucoma and Clack Conservative, 2 TikTokers. I think they did a pretty decent job of making their case. Although we didn't get into the meta ethics of why future like ours is kind of cringe. So yeah, this will stay up on YouTube. So if you want to watch it later, you can. I might even analyze it and see what I could do better, because there's stuff I could do better. But yeah, hopefully we're all good. And yeah, be sure to check out again. Hit that like button for the algorithms. It really does help us out. And join the Discord, everybody. Please join the Discord. We're doing more stuff there. So yeah, with that, as we say at Crowdsource Politics, keep your head up through the political storm.